You're listening to the Soulless Minions of Orthodoxy, alternative DVD commentaries. Our movie for today is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I am without Justin today, so there's only one minion in the Soulless Minions studio. But I am joined by three guests, Mr. Mike Ortiz and Damon Shaw from Geek Fights, and Mr. Michael Felsher from RedShirtPictures.com. Say hello, guys.
May the Force be with you.
All right, that was Mr. Ortiz. Mr. Damon Shaw.
Hey, how's it going?
That's Mr. Felsher. All right, so I'm really excited to do this because Justin and I have avoided doing any Star Wars commentaries because they've just been done to death. But you know what? It's our turn, so we have some things to say, and I know you guys have some things to say as well. So hopefully we'll give the movie a fair shake. I know it has its haters, but it has its lovers too. And I think out of the prequels, it's probably the strongest. How do you guys feel?
I agree. I like it a lot. This movie.
Yeah.
Of the three, yes, it's the strongest. That ain't saying much.
Okay. All right, so if you guys out there want to watch the movie with us, which I hope you do, our sync point for today is the first black frame after the Lucasfilm logo that's faded to black. So pop in your DVD or Blu-ray, what have you, set it up to that point. And I'm going to give you a countdown. And when I say unpause, we'll all unpause together. So get your finger on your remote and get ready to unpause. Here comes the countdown. 3, 2, 1, unpause. All right, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
I still remember the first time I saw that.
Star Wars.
Oh.
Yeah, it was on a much better movie.
Much.
Yeah, Revenge of the Jedi.
It was Return of the Jedi. God, already you're getting things wrong.
I
Because
prefer Revenge.
Jedi don't get revenge, but Sith do.
Mm.
I do like the callback. That was the first thing I liked about this movie.
Well, since we're on the opening
Whoa.
crawl, how do you guys all...
What is it good for?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Except now this show has to pay $25,000 in royalty fees.
Well, out of the other two opening crawls, do you guys think this one sets up the movie a little bit better?
I almost find them a little.
Yeah, I guess.
After, I don't really pay that much attention to them. I don't think they don't grab me like they used to. I mean,
They've gotten overly complicated,
but it's a pretty simple thing. The last time you saw us, the
Phantom
war
Menace.
began. Now it ends.
Phantom Menace has had mentions of trade treaties, and I swear it read like an income tax form.
Yeah, I remember being a little kind of disappointed when I first saw the opening crawl on the Phantom Menace. I was like, oh, okay.
This one,
well, war! Yeah.
Well, they
Good
jump
God.
right in. And, we jump right into some war here. I thought this was actually a very nice opening shot.
Yeah, what do you guys all think of this? I mean, I timed it, and this shot actually lasts about a minute and 10 or 20 or so seconds. So it's a pretty long opening shot.
Yeah. And I like how, we start off here with it just flying along. Every single one is started with some sort of, vehicle in space thing. At this point, we don't know what's going on. We don't know who these two are. And just flying along, la-di-da, and then we dive over the edge, and boom! All kind of shit's blown up.
It's visually impressive, although, again, it's just like you don't really know who's fighting who for what reason, and nothing really gets clarified much in the end, but it is nice to see Obi-Wan and Anakin at least having some repartee, although still, for me, it was coming way too late in the game in the series for this type of stuff. This should have been happening 2 movies ago. But it was nice to see them at least try here.
Yeah, I mean, this was a nice way to jump right into the action. And, Star Wars did space battles better than anybody. And, they always top the last one. And I think this one does it too. I like how the ships are all in one way or another a callback. This movie to me is a lot like the 4th season of Star Trek Enterprise. It's all about, now this ship is going to evolve into the TIE fighter, and this one's going to evolve into an X-Wing fighter, and that's going to be a Star Destroyer. And there's that. This is the one that tries to start building connective tissue.
That's a really good way to put it, Mike. I never thought of it like that in terms of Enterprise, but you're right.
It's probably why I like it, because they do connect a whole shit ton in between these movies.
TIE fighters,
Yeah, the window design of the TIE fighters is evident.
Yeah.
And we're seeing X-wings with a couple extra wings stuck in there, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the area where I think these movies succeed really are in their production design. I love looking at the books, the Art of Star Wars books, because in many ways you're getting all of this without having to have the movie.
Well, that's where all the geeks got to stick in all their stuff, all the little details and everything that they were, grew up as a kid. It's like, well, let's make these ships reminiscent of the stuff that we grew up with. So, yeah, the production design and the special effects. I mean, it's a shame these movies had to come out during the time of The Matrix and Lord of the Rings. They never got any Oscar recognition as far as visual effects were concerned, and it's a shame because this is extremely good work.
Yeah, I mean these are just these great big shots.
Well, I agree with you guys. I mean, this is really good-looking stuff, but I mean, at its core, I feel it's to little to no avail because I never felt the story really supported the special effects.
Well, the problem with this is you don't really give a shit about what's going on. I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing really driving this. It's just a bunch of action being thrown at you, and it's again, this all has to go back to Lucas's doorstep. He's failed at this point, even this late in the game, to have really created anything. There's nothing at stake here. Is basically my problem. It's just a lot of showing off. And it's cute, and it's fun at times, but like these little robots that are getting ready to attack. Yeah, it's cute and everything, but it just gives something for R2 to do, and we get to see a droid die really horribly here.
A droid that is actually a part of the original trilogy for a while. He's Obi-Wan's droid. He's in 2. I think he might even make an appearance in 1. So it really is fucked up the way he dies.
Yeah, he gets basically the top of his head just ripped off, which is... It's always fun to see a droid die horribly.
No, it isn't, because they scream. And I don't know why they scream when they die.
Well, I remember in Phantom Menace when they're getting picked off the top of the ship, you just hear, "Ah!" And I'm like, yeah, there's really no reason to have them scream. But that was a good decision.
Well, before we get really deep into the movie as this sequence is going on, just to clarify for the listeners out there, I just want to get your impressions out on the table. Now, let's see. Michael, you don't like this movie really at all.
No.
Okay, now Mike and Damon, you guys actually really like it a lot.
I'm not going to say a lot, but I enjoy it for what it is.
I enjoy it a lot, and I do like it. I mean, it's not a great movie. It's got a lot of problems, but I'm not a big fan of Return of the Jedi either. I think that this is worse than that, but far better than the other two. I think that it gets a lot of the hatred for it just really comes from, sorry, you're guilt by association. The other two were so hated that this one really didn't have a chance.
My problem with this film has always been that this was the one in most geeks or film Star Wars fans would admit, it's the one that everyone was really waiting for. It's when all the shit goes down. And the problem is, I feel Lucas wasted 2 films essentially telling stories we really didn't care about, only to jump to this point. And now he has essentially 2.5 hours to go through all the stuff that we really should have been given much more time in the other 2 films. And this film, as a result, just plows through plot points left and right. And the last half hour of this movie plays like a highlight reel. It's almost laughable how quickly things happen, except for the lightsaber fight, which takes 2.5 hours. But, it's just, I really wish he had balanced these things out more, because this movie just had way too much to accomplish.
Well, I think part of the problem, though, and I think this goes back to what Damon was saying, is when you were saying this is the movie all of us have been waiting for, this isn't that movie. He never made that movie. This is a different Star Wars. This is more about the kind of the arc of Anakin Skywalker. Like it or not, we're not going to get the movie that we thought we were going to get, because Darth Vader is not the character that we thought he was. This is a new Star Wars. This is different. And I think that's what a lot of people don't like about it. Is, you know, we had this great, amazing Darth Vader villain that now people look at as, well, he's just some whiny punk kid. And a lot of people think that's hurt Darth Vader. It hurt him on our show. Star Wars never is able to win. Vader's never able to win because people don't consider Darth Vader to be the villain that we thought he was, because this is who Darth Vader is. And then he becomes the other guy for a while, and he comes back to being this. So it's really a completely different character in that Star Wars.
What do you guys think of these battle droids here, now that they're
utterly useless? They were useless in the first movie.
Yeah.
They're worse than the stormtroopers. I don't know why he kept putting them in there, because they have never been a threat in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, right. I mean, I've often thought, how are we supposed to feel any kind of tension or suspense if the main enemy is completely ineffective?
Well, they're ineffective against Jedis with lightsabers. But if you have a couple hundred droids coming at you with guns firing, you've got a problem as a regular person.
And I don't think you're supposed to feel that the Jedi are in great danger at this point. The Jedi,
no.
This is more just kind of impeding their plans.
And
R2 might be in danger.
I actually
R2 you can't. R2's never in danger.
No, he's not in danger. He's R2-D2.
You know, at this point, the real adversary is the fact that these two just don't really see eye to eye very well.
No.
You know, that's the problem. Obi-Wan, you're a wussy. You don't want to do this. Will you calm down? I mean, it's almost like a married couple.
The sad thing is, there's actually some moments here between the two of them in this opening bit that I really liked, and I wish, like I said, the movie this hadn't waited until now for us really to get some of this. Anakin was too whiny in the second movie, and he was a kid in the first one, and it's just. I was hoping for more. I would have felt more about the Obi-Wan Anakin storyline, especially at the end when they fight, had there been more of a friendship there that I felt. That's something that didn't occur in the first hour of the third movie.
Do you think this R2-D2 stuff was kind of inserted just to appeal to the kiddies?
I think that's most of these movies.
Yes, and it appeals to me too, because R2-D2 is badass in this movie.
This is for R2-D2 fans.
Seriously, this is the most badass R2-D2 ever is. He can catch things with his little robot hand. He shits oil. He shits oil onto other droids and lights them on fire. Like you go down the list of everything that R2-D2 has ever done. He does it in this movie, and he does it better than any other movie. I love R2-D2 in this movie.
R2-D2, the unarmed little astro droid, just took down two fucking warrior droids and just rolled away. Now let me go do my shit.
Which does create a problem later on in that he does none of that in the original trilogy, which you understand.
He's old. Come on. You can't keep that up forever.
Okay, well,
you doing shit you did 20 years ago, friend.
Let me jump in here. Let me jump in here before it gets off screen. I mean, they just walked into this room here, and they do this a lot where they seem to be in a rush, but then they get to where they're going and they start walking.
They start walking and talking a lot.
It's like, let's just be leisure about it. No rush.
Well, that's because another Jedi shows up, and now it's a different game.
Well, I mean, they just walked into the room and just casually walked up to to Palpatine here as if they, there was no danger at all. And, I want to feel danger. I want to feel that these characters are in some sort of,
Well, this is a problem I've had with all three films, and that there's just a lack of tension built up. I mean, I think Lucas's directorial style, even the way he frames his shots, there's just nothing really grabs you. You're watching something rather than getting involved in it, and I don't. And it's sad too, because I mean, God, you got Christopher Lee with a fucking lightsaber. This inherently, the DNA in this scene screams excitement. Yet I'm not interested in any of what's going on.
Well, I thought it was.
But how much of that is the movie, and how much of that is your disinterest in what's going on? Like, I actually like this sequence. I think this was a great sequence. Other than some of the kind of weak effect shots here and there, I thought this was.
See, again, more crap with the. That's another problem, is that he fills up the screen with so much crap. Lucas is almost afraid at times to have any shot in this movie or any of the other films in the prequels with nothing going on in the background. There always has to be an animal walking through the background, a ship flying through the window, droids walking back and forth. It's almost as like it's visual overkill. And that's not something he's only guilty of. A lot of filmmakers these days are guilty of. It's like you have the tools and the money, so we got to fill up the screen with as much shit as possible.
Yeah, it is really hard, at least for me, to kind of sit back and enjoy this movie on a story level because, as you said, I mean, this movie is just jam-packed every frame with effects, and that can be kind of, I guess, confusing to the mind. It's, which part of the movie should I get wrapped up in? And, this sequence here, all I'm thinking about is, this isn't really Christopher Lee. This is a, I know that they're using a CG face of Christopher Lee. That's all I can think of. I'm not getting in the moment. And I don't know about this beheading here. Did you guys feel this was a little too strong?
I thought it was awesome. I'm sorry, he already took off his hands. The hands was a little too much. The beheading is, he already took off his hands in a very violent way.
The hands isn't too much because that's the payback. He took his hand in the last movie, so he takes twice as much.
This series is all about people's hands getting chopped the fuck off.
All 6 movies.
So it's like, with the hands already?
To me, it just felt like Lucas kind of pushing a little too hard to, okay, we're going to show that Anakin is so dark that he's willing to chop somebody's head off. But
I think willing to chop someone's head off does mean that you're pretty dark.
Yeah, but still, right afterwards, he shows remorse, and I don't know. I just
he botched the whole turning to the dark side arc with Anakin in the first place, and that's a problem that has existed ever since we spent a whole movie with him as a fucking kid.
It's not the kid movie. That is not where it happened.
I guess the question is, do we want to make this whole thing Michael and I disagreeing about this particular point?
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. But it isn't in episode 1. The kid stuff in episode 1 isn't where they botched the dark side. It's in episode 2 when he kills a village full of sand people, and then nothing's said about it. That's the moment when he turns to the dark side, but they don't build anything from that moment.
It would have been nice to have seen that scene play out.
Yeah, there's nothing. He just gets his revenge, and then it's over.
And then, we got a bunch of ships crashing into each other. Don't know why. Don't care.
Well, see, even nobody looks scared at all. Even the Emperor or Palpatine looks kind of placid. He doesn't seem to really care.
I just buy that he's super. I buy that as he's just super cool. He knows what's going on. He's the only one who's actually in control around here.
Well, because he's not going to let himself die. He is a Dark Lord of the Sith that can hide himself from 2 Jedi that are standing right next to him. I'm sure he's fine. That's why he's calm.
And this is really the Emperor's movie.
Well, still, if you're from someone who hasn't been converted into Star Wars, they're watching this for the first time, they don't know that he's going to be the Emperor. So they'd be wondering, why isn't this guy...
I think you are... That's...
I think everyone knows him well.
By this point, again, we have to start looking at this as how many people are seeing this in the numerical order that are not watching this, knowing what the Darth Vader thing is like. I mean,
and that's only people that have come along in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, and everyone ever after that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and I don't want to talk to those people.
Well, good, because you're going to be dead.
Well, I like this little bit here, Obi-Wan.
Oh, gee, that's optimistic.
What do you guys think of the byplay between Anakin and Obi-Wan in this movie?
It's not nearly homoerotic enough. Although the Emperor and Anakin, that actually is dead.
Plenty of that.
Yeah.
What is it with Lucas and shafts? He just got his. He loves putting his heroes down big, long shafts.
And
shafts
hands
and
being chopped
getting cut off. Yeah, right.
There's some stuff going on here.
It's like pro-masturbation and anti-masturbation at the same time. It's very hard.
Well, don't forget scantily clad women getting their stuff torn up.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. Now, the General Grievous character was an interesting idea, but again, he's introduced in the 3rd movie, and I wouldn't have minded seeing him earlier. It's just a shame that we're not, the coffin droid robot, which is again an interesting idea, but now that we're a little too late.
Now he's not a droid.
Well, he's He's like a combination of something, isn't he?
Well, he's a prototype for Darth Vader. He's a cyborg.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of Grievous, each one of the prequels has its own villain, and I've heard different opinions on other fan commentaries or reviews. that it was a mistake to kill Darth Maul in the first movie. He should have been the primary villain throughout the three.
I don't really know. I mean, he wasn't given any chance to really do anything except look like a badass in the first movie. So we really have no idea what kind of character he could have developed into, which, that might have been interesting. A through line would have been nice through all three pictures. But then again, I do enjoy seeing Christopher Lee. But yeah, the problem is each time you reset, you're one more movie into it. So by this point now, General Grievous is, and he's going to die. So there's really no suspense with that either. So there's not even a long character arc to have satisfied you up until this point.
With the exception of the Emperor and his huge plan.
Which is a very confusing plan.
That's the Phantom part of the Phantom Menace. No one knows who the villain of the piece is until the end of this movie.
Well, what do you guys, being the, you guys think of this movie on a more positive side? I mean, at least Mike and Damon do. What do you guys think of the dialogue of this film? Because that's been heavily criticized.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's horrible.
It's awful.
Okay, so you're able to like it, even though the dialogue. No, you admit the dialogue.
Go back and watch Star Wars. Watch Star Wars through unfan eyes. The dialogue in that movie is horrible.
It's better than this, but I will not defend some of the dialogue in the original Star Wars.
Okay, somehow Star Wars managed to make Lawrence Kasdan write bad dialogue. There's just something about Star Wars.
Well, I think Lawrence Kasdan did a better job than Lucas did on A New Hope.
Empire and Return,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but still far, far inferior to what he would normally do, I think.
I think we should save the bad dialogue conversation for the first scene between Anakin and Padme in this movie, because that was one point I almost walked out. Because that was when Star Wars died for me, was in Attack of the Clones. During their dialogue, I was just like, nope, this is never going to get any better.
I discovered something very interesting once. I accidentally turned on the Spanish language track for Phantom Menace, and then I put on the English subtitles and pretended it was a foreign science fiction movie. Reading the dialogue, disconnected from the actors' inflection, especially a language you don't understand, so you don't know if their acting is bad, made it a really good movie. Also because the guy they got to voice Liam Neeson was much better, and the guy that they got to voice the kid was much better. So
and Jar Jar.
Yeah. I mean they actually fixed it up a little bit. And reading the dialogue, I'm reading it now, I've got the subtitles on. It's not nearly as bad. It reads like comic book dialogue.
Well, I agree. It does read differently than as opposed to when you just hear it.
So I just put the subtitles on. The movies get much better.
Now, we just had that moment where Grievous threw I don't know what that weapon is called, against the glass, and it blew out, and then the vacuum came in. I thought that was rather interesting for a Star Wars movie. You don't see them kind of deal with space kind of in that scientific way, where...
Well, they deal with space how they want to deal with it when it's convenient for them to do so.
Well,
and that's fine.
It's because they never were out in space until this movie. Well, because before that, it was something different. Because if you remember, what is that? Is that Empire where they're in the monster's mouth?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. They have the masks on.
Yeah, that's the vacuum of space, or at least it's supposed to be. But
I think there was an atmosphere there.
There was no atmosphere there. They were inside the thing.
There would be an atmosphere inside it.
Maybe.
There's atmosphere inside you.
Sure. I thought this scene was a bit confusing for me at first because, as I've heard later, that the reason they're affected by gravity, or at least right here where you see it burning up, is because they're in the upper atmosphere. That's why.
Yeah, they're not actually fighting in space. They're in the very upper reaches of orbit.
Right. You see one of the buzz droids fly off the ship, there's wind resistance, and you're thinking, well, that doesn't make sense. They're in space, but I've heard.
How dare these movies have scientific inaccuracies like this? This is just unbearable.
Yeah,
it's all midichlorians.
Midichlorians.
Oh no! Oh no! We're not bringing that shit.
Let's not go into midichlorians.
Yeah,
but honestly, taking a look at this movie again, I kind of enjoyed it this time. Just watching back and just letting myself enjoy it, because this is a movie, to be honest, I'll pop in just to kind of test my picture settings or sound settings But
I feel bad for those poor fuckers in the air traffic control tower that just got their ass completely annihilated.
Yeah. And all they can say is, well, it's another happy landing, at least.
Yes, except for those poor fuckers back there who are all dead and split all over the runway.
Unless, they evacuated the people who were in the way of the ship that had been crashing for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's possible.
Well, that sequence just clocked in at about a little over 23 minutes as opening sequences go. I guess it's not bad for an opening sequence, at least for the prequels. But how do you think
someone's got to do a running count of how many times, not only in this movie but in all three of the prequels, do we see shots of ships landing on a fucking platform?
Exactly. That's what I said to my brother. I was like, you know what, this movie should be subtitled: ships flying in and flying out the movie.
Yeah, there are about 100 times. I mean, I don't know. I guess Lucas just sits at home just masturbating shots of ships, landing on the platform.
You keep track of it. This would be one, or are we going to count the crash landing as one?
I won't count the crash landing as one because that's just a crash landing.
So this is one. Let's try to keep a running tally. Right. Somebody keep track.
I'll keep track.
Yeah.
Jar Jar Binks makes his only appearance in this movie in just a second.
I thought it was only at the end.
He's right there. He's right there.
He's part of his delegation.
Oh, he is?
Yeah. Okay. Senator Jar Jar Binks.
Which just goes to show you how hard up they are for any politicians on Naboo.
Okay, what do you guys think of Sam Jackson?
Utterly worthless in these three movies. Used very poorly.
You could say that about almost everybody in these three movies.
Okay, now
Natalie Portman has won an Oscar for acting.
Is anybody else distracted by the big blue guy in the background? Because
I'm distracted by all the people in the background.
I can't look at anything else but him. That's just me.
Well, again, that's just he's put in there to distract because there's nothing else going on.
You don't want to be distracted. You want to be paying attention to what Palpatine is saying.
There's nothing worth paying attention to here. And of course, now we're going to. I mean, he mentioned Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman's a great actress. She has the worst role of her career in this movie. All she does is cry, smile a few times, cry some more, give birth, and die. That's all she fucking does in this movie.
Well,
and she is saddled with some of the worst dialogue. Oh my God.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Natalie Portman about her character, about Padme. I mean, to me, she seemed to be very gung-ho and very self-assured in episodes 1 and 2, kind of like Ripley. But here, she just becomes very soft. I mean,
she's a damsel in distress in this movie.
That's because she got the mama hormones.
You could equate that to being a mother.
And because she's got the buns in her hair.
Look at Kira on Deep Space Nine. When she was pregnant, she was still kicking ass.
But Jorah and hormones work differently.
Yeah, they just
actually, it's Anakin's baby batter. That's what did it.
Now, do
it's
you guys
the midichlorians.
Now, I'm not talking about the dialogue in this scene, but what I find to be uncomfortable is the way Anakin is groping her and breathing all over her. It's just a little too much. It just makes me very uneasy.
Well, the whole thing is
grope her and breathe on her.
Yeah, if I had,
come
you kidding me?
Dude.
I wouldn't go fight a damn battle. I'd say screw the universe. But that's the whole point. Is he's way too possessive of her, and of course, this whole thing is just about him not getting enough pussy. I guess I don't know.
Don't you think this dialogue here sounds a little too Lifetime
awful?
Movie of the Week kind of a thing?
No, it's not that good.
Ouch. I felt that Anakin his reactions to her being pregnant are. I wish he would have seemed a little more unsure, not so confident. You see, he's smiling. It's
a creepy smile. He almost has a feeling. His first reaction was just like, pregnant? How am I going to eat that baby? I mean, he's like looking at it like, I have to destroy it because later on I'm going to kill a lot of children. How am I going to kill that baby? He's weird in this movie.
It doesn't take long for Michael to start talking about baby killing.
Not when you got prime stuff like this to look at.
You know what's funny? Mike and I like this movie, but yet and still, neither of us are defending anything that's wrong. We keep like, yeah, you're right, it's bad.
That's a good point.
Oh, because basically it's just going to be, no, you're wrong.
And here we go, shot number 2 of a ship coming in for another fucking landing. There we go. That's just.
You missed the one that was taking off a second ago.
Yay.
It was in the background.
Well,
no, I don't care about. not going to do taking offs. We're just going to do landings because otherwise I won't be able to do anything else.
Well, Damien, you just mentioned, we haven't been defending it, but you like it. And, I've heard, from another podcaster, he said kind of the same thing. He's like, well, yeah, the dialogue is not that good. The Frankenstein moment at the end is not that good, but it's fun. And if it's fun for me, then I don't have to defend it. So as long as you enjoy it, then
it's not that. I mean, the main reason is, I know all of Michael's arguments because I've heard this 100 times before. And secondly, I just don't agree. I mean, the dialogue, I don't think the dialogue is horrible. Like I said, it's comic book dialogue. And I think that it's not delivered particularly well, but that's also not that big a deal for me. And I don't think it's a big deal for Lucas either. That's not what this is about. This is about conveying that quick information, and a lot of it is about this visual, which is, I think, fantastic. There's not a lot of... a lot of people have gotten jaded to special effects and look at this and go, oh, well, this is just all done in a computer. It's like, I have a computer in front of me. I can't do that. Now, this is actually the worst part of the movie.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
This is a point of contention for
this has the worst dialogue exchange in the whole picture.
Well, I heard that
this has the worst dialogue exchange in the entire Star Wars saga, probably even the extended universe.
I don't know,
man. That's I don't know.
I thought you were about to say the worst dialogue in movies. In all history of movies.
No, just Star. Yeah, I know the sand thing was bad.
Oh man, was that bad?
Okay.
Oh God.
Yeah, the worst dialogue in movie history still goes down for the Spirit. The Spirit.
You are so beautiful. You are so beautiful, and it's only because I'm so in love.
No, because I'm in love.
Because I'm so in love with you.
No, you're schmoopy.
No, you're pretty. No, you're pretty.
I heard this was inserted by Lucas after the fact.
Why? Why would he do that?
He didn't feel there was enough moments between the two of them.
Oh, really? Well, it's like, this movie isn't shitty enough. Let me see if I can fuck it some more.
Okay, this dream sequence here, does this remind anybody of Dune?
No.
No, okay, it's just me.
No, not at all. No.
Okay.
Oh, man, I was having a good wet dream until... Oh, shit, she's still here. He's always shirtless in bed. I don't know what the hell's going on with that.
His arm looks really weird.
Yeah, they gave him... The arm was weird choice.
At least he showed them sleeping in bed together. I mean, that was nice. I mean, as he said, these movies are for kids, At least
there's some shit in this movie that is so not... I mean, it got a PG-13 rating, but when he's burning up at the end of the picture, I remember sitting there watching going, holy crap!
I totally agree with you, but I mean, look at Planet of the Apes. I mean, wasn't that like a family movie? And there's some dark stuff going on in there. When you think about, especially in
but with
cartoon.
Star Wars, I think most parents would assume, what's the worst? But he's just like, he's burning up and screaming, and it's like, oh, well, this is something that's not going to traumatize anybody.
Okay, now let's talk about Hayden Christensen. What do you guys think? He's been criticized for poor acting, but what do you think?
It's not a good performance, but I don't entirely blame him.
I don't blame him at all because I've actually watched him in other movies, and he's fine. He's serviceable and sometimes even good.
Yeah,
Uh,
there was a movie where he played Bob Dylan, and I was like, wow, he did a really good job.
Yeah, Factory Girl. Yeah, I saw him in Shattered. I saw him in Shattered Glass. I thought he was pretty effective.
He was also in a movie called Life is a House, I think it was called. Mm-hmm. That he was in with Kevin Kline, I think it was. I think that was the name of the movie.
Yeah, I think you're right.
He's very, very good. I mean, the problem is he's given it's a very bad character. It's an ill-conceived character, and Lucas is terrible with actors. I mean, look at the actress he's playing with in this scene. We know she can act. I've seen her act great in tons of other movies. Samuel L. Jackson, fucking great actor. But they all suck in this.
Well, since he's on my mind right now, he's on screen. I mean, could you guys imagine, say, if Jonathan Brandis had gotten this role? How do you think he would have worked out?
Well,
just
he didn't work
bad.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would have really survived. I think I think as you can see, the evidence is on the screen that it's not so much the talent of the actor, it's the directing and the writing and also the environment in which these films were made. How much of this scene, how much of the set deck here is actually there?
It doesn't seem to be anything to me.
Yeah, but see, that's a bullshit reason because actors have been doing that forever. I just saw a play.
Yeah, but not a. Yes, some actors can do it and some can't, though.
Good actors can do it.
Not necessarily.
Good actors can do it. Dude, I just saw a play the Shakespeare play that they've been doing for 500 fucking years with nothing on the stage. That has nothing to do with the actors.
That's different.
Good actors can do it. No.
Okay, let me ask you guys something here. I mean, we're watching him talk to Yoda right now about his premonitions, but in the previous scene when he was on the balcony with Padme, she said, "How about Obi-Wan? Can he help?" And he immediately resisted help from Obi-Wan, but yet he goes to Yoda for guidance. But I've wondered, why is he so against getting help from Obi-Wan? I mean, they're apparently supposed to be friends.
Well, I think it's like a brother relationship is what it's more like. Is he doesn't want to go to the
rivalry between the two of them. There's always been issues between the two of them.
And they're trying to sow the seeds of distrust already between the two of them, so it doesn't come as a complete shock later when he's trying to kill him.
Yeah, I know they're trying to sow the seeds, but still, it just seems to come out of left field to me.
And if you want wisdom, you
go to Yoda. Although Yoda's not very smart, because he's sitting in front of a kid who he cannot tell is going to end up in just less than 2 hours killing a bunch of Jedi.
He was the one who said, "No, we should not train this kid" in the first fucking movie.
And none of the people around him agreed with him because they were so
that's
used to
why
Yoda
is the one who walks away from this movie. He's the only one in every movie that's like, "There's something up. There's something up." And everybody says, "No, don't pay attention to the old little green man." And he's the only one that survives.
Maybe that's the moral of the story. Pay attention to the old people. Pay attention to the senior citizens. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
because the only two people have their shit together, and this are the two old people.
Right.
Yeah.
The Emperor.
One's who becomes the Emperor, and the other one goes and is like, he's the only Jedi who makes it out of here largely intact, aside from Obi-Wan.
Basically, in the first movie, Yoda says, this guy has no daddy. He's got a lot of midichlorians, and he's really pissed off. How about we don't teach him how to use the Force? And if anybody would have said, maybe that's a good idea. Let's not give a loaded gun to a crazy child. These movies don't happen.
Which just goes to show you, I don't think they misconceived the whole Jedi Council. They all just sit around all damn day going, yes, well, we'll take that under consideration. Yes, well, I don't know.
That's supposed to be the point of this, is how the Jedi have gone from being like warriors to basically
politicians.
Yeah, I mean, they're involved in politics. They're errand boys for senators who are corrupt, and I think
which is a neat idea. It's not a bad idea, except that it doesn't make for very interesting heroes. It just, as a result, it just kind of comes off as really dull. If I saw one more scene in the Jedi Council room in these damn prequels, it was like, oh god, they're going to talk some more about shit that we should be seeing instead of hearing it being talked about. Yeah,
this scene opens with Anakin and Palpatine walking and talking, and that's another problem I have with these movies.
Walking and talking.
There's so much walking and talking going on in this movie, and it really takes me out of the scene every single time. But about the council, I'm glad you brought that up. Like, that's another thing that I never really cared for in these films.
5-dick building. Jedi Council, god damn it.
Looking at with the originals, growing up with the originals, before these movies existed, the Jedi were these mystical figures, like Merlin. And they didn't have homes. They were just kind of like wayward samurai. That's the way I saw them. But here, it shows them as like, oh, they just sit around in a room all day and talk politics. I'm like, well, that's really boring.
But
I love the one guy who's...
The problem with that, though, is you were filling in backstory for how long? And Lucas didn't deliver the backstory that people wanted or expected.
That's a good point.
That's really and that's just it. Whatever Star Wars you would have loved would not have been my Star Wars. I mean, if these movies had come out immediately afterwards, there's no way they would be as hated as they were. It's just everybody's had that time. How many people are pissed off that we didn't see the Clone Wars in a movie and that it wound up being a TV series?
An excellent TV series.
I'm just pissed off that we never got anything that interesting. That's all. By the way, why is the hologram of the one guy sitting in a real chair? That bothers me. Does that bother anybody else?
Not in the least.
No, he's just sitting somewhere else. That's all.
It doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
Yeah, it does. Because in what is it? Episode 5, also known as Empire Strikes
Can
Back.
I go back to the criticizing the science in the movie isn't much different than criticizing the holograms.
Right. But episode 5, Vader is kneeling in his little hologram, and when you see it from the Emperor's viewpoint, he's kneeling.
Yeah, I've already moved on.
Adjust your holograms so that maybe you're a little bit better looking? Like maybe
Probably.
mine looks like John Cusack.
Because that's who apparently you sound like. Which
according to only me.
Yeah. And your brother.
See, there's more talking but no walking.
Well, no, they
they were-
stopped for a second, but
there's
they were
stuff
walking
going
just a
behind
second ago.
Well, they were
Now,
walking.
because they're walking
But see,
now.
that's when they stop walking, that's when you know that stuff they're talking about is really important. Now this is less
just filler.
important.
Well,
Yeah.
don't you think this whole debate? I never.
Are we
really
going to
cared
track
for
the
this,
walking and talkings and the ships landing?
Well, let's
Basically,
not.
this
We're
is a
gonna be-
movie about movement. I don't see
Yeah,
what your problem is.
We're going to run out of space on the page with tally marks if we try to do that. But
Yeah, that's just absurd.
what do you guys think? I mean, of this issue Anakin has with the rank of master. I mean, I never really felt that Jedi should be concerned with such things, and he's just throwing fits over. Oh, I have to be called a master.
That's because he's not a Jedi. He hasn't been since the second movie, but nobody's realized it. He's complaining about that. He marries a girl. He falls in love. These are all things that
He
are
chopped
against
the
the
dude's
Jedi
head
code.
off.
Chopped a dude's head off. He's not a Jedi.
Yeah, at this point, everyone thinks he's a terrible Jedi. He's actually just a terrible Sith.
Right, like, he's not a Jedi. He's wearing all black the entire movie.
I don't know other Jedi dress like that. Maybe they just think it's a phase. Everybody
Right,
has a black phase. He's got some
Totally telegraphing it.
Yeah, he's got a fake arm. He's got a
listening to the
scar
camera.
down one side of his face. I mean, it's just like he's lit in all darkness around him at all times.
And in the
It's
first movie, Yoda said, "Hey, this is not a good idea."
And everyone's
Exactly.
fuck you, green boy.
And by the time they finally listen to him, it's only to not make him a master and piss him off even more.
That's
Now,
a
here's a
point.
rare situation where they're sitting and talking while everything else around them is moving.
Well, we just had a ship fly into the shot, so there's another one. But
That was
I got to say
apparently
that
a reference to the Seven Samurai.
which part?
Yoda's movement there.
Oh, his head over his
Yeah.
hair. Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
See, there's a whole thing with this whole prophecy that got introduced about the chosen one.
Yeah.
It's so heavy-handed and it's so pretentious that it's the only reason they can come up with. It's like, we shouldn't trust a kid, but he's the chosen one. Oh, all right, because he's the chosen one.
It seemed to
God.
it seemed to
I mean,
make a
it's
lot of
just like-
people sore. Yeah. Just
You know,
like it was just kind of thrown in there, like the
Ship just landed.
Immaculate Conception in Episode 1. It just kind of came out of nowhere. It's like, when did they ever talk about a prophecy before? I don't remember this.
Why would
And
they have
this
talked
looks
about
just
it
like the
before?
Jedi.
This
You
is the
just look-
beginning of the story.
I still like the fact that
That's a good point.
he does bring balance to the Force.
Just
Yeah,
not in the way they were
yeah.
expecting.
Just not in the way, by wiping out all the Jedi and having a half Jedi, half Sith,
Well,
Sith kid.
Yoda even says that. Misread the prophecy could have been. Again, Yoda says, "Hey, maybe this means he destroys everything."
Ending of the book we should have read first.
Now, here's-
It's just...
Here she's talking about the Separatists and the Republic.
And I
And
don't know.
I've noticed that on the DVD. I mean, they have those deleted scenes. I'm sure you're familiar with, where she's having meetings with other members of the Senate or what have you.
I have not seen those, but I've heard about them.
Well, I felt that although they do elongate the movie, but I felt that they were necessary at least to set up the rebellion that's going to come to be in A New Hope.
The problem is Lucas muddled the message so badly with who's fighting who and for what reason in these pictures that by the time okay, now the war is over and these people like these people and these people are on these people's sides, and you're like, I forgot who was fighting and for what reason, and oh wait a minute, I don't care.
Maybe
You know,
you
it
just
was-
got some memory problems because I thought it was all pretty clear.
No, it really isn't very clear at all. Like in Attack of the Clones, at the end when the two sides are fighting each other, who the fuck were they?
Clones and droids,
And what were they fighting for?
Separatists, and the
Trade
Republic.
Federation. No, it was the Trade Federation.
Yeah,
Come on now. Not separatist.
I'll let you two figure it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
It's easy.
There's
Very
George
simple.
Lucas's cameo right there, in case anybody cared.
No, nobody cares. It's
Nah,
George
but-
Lucas.
Now, this is one of the few scenes in the movie I actually really did like. I do enjoy the opera scene here between, because you can kind of see, this is one of the, I wish there had been more scenes like this in the picture where you actually really saw him gently manipulating Anakin towards his point of view. I mean, it's actually a very good performance from Ian McDermott here. And I wish that there had been more scenes to help set this up other than just a lot of walking and talking. This is actually one of the few character scenes in the picture.
Well, I'm kind of distracted by what they're watching. I'm like, I don't get it. It's like a CGI jellyfish show or something. I don't know what this is, but
it's snot opera. I don't know what it is. It's just
it's Alien.
Well, I like this scene enough, but I felt its pace was kind of slow. It's kind of lethargic almost. But in that previous scene where Anakin was talking to Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan said, we need you to spy on the Chancellor. And here, we have the Chancellor trying to manipulate Anakin. Wouldn't you say that maybe even the Jedi are as to blame as for Anakin's turn to the dark side? They're using him as...
Jedi,
absolutely they are.
This is the failure. I mean, that's, again, part of the problem is this has been the failure of the Jedi. All along. I mean, they failed the Republic by allowing the Senate to become corrupt, by allowing him to take control, and even just their rules. None of this would have happened if Anakin had been allowed to get married. The Jedi were such a strict and ordered organization that, they just broke. You can't have that kind of order. And that's, I think, the balance to the Force. And at the end of Return of the Jedi, Luke is almost closer to Anakin than he is to the other Jedi. I think that there is a balance between light and dark. The Jedi don't have emotion. The Sith are all about emotion. The two of them as opposites don't work. It has to be a balance between the two of them that actually makes the Jedi effective.
It's an interesting idea. Mike, you've accused me of being upset that these movies aren't the ones that I would have wanted to see, or he does things the way that, I was. When I went into these movies, I didn't have really any idea what I wanted to see from them. Because at that point it had been, 15, 16 years between Jedi and Star Wars. I had fallen out of Star Wars, gotten back interested in the movies right around the time Phantom Menace came back out. But I didn't have anything. It's like, well, he better hit these plot points and he better make sure these characters do these certain things. I just wanted something that was interesting. I wanted something that was well told and something that was, I don't know, just not only intellectually and viscerally exciting, but something that did, I think, a very good job of expanding the universe. The Jedi Council, for me, is a prime example of where he got it all wrong. The first three Star Wars movies don't really go into a lot of detail about the Jedi. There's still a lot of mystery around them. In this movie, he felt the need to over-explain and overdo and everything. Every element has to be explained. The Force just can't be a mystical force. They have to be midichlorians. Jedi Council, they can't be Jedi, mystical warriors embodied with the Force. They have to become a political body with a structure and all that. Some of that could have been interesting. I just felt he made really just bad storytelling decisions. And as a result, there's just so little life to so many of these scenes because they're dragged down. They're just dragged down by all of this pretentious crap that he threw in there. Not because of stuff I was looking for. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just know that this wasn't it.
See, again, I think the difference is all of this stuff that you're talking about as being too much is the difference between what I think and what you said. What you really wanted out of this was 3 more really good movies, and you didn't get that. But I think what he was doing was expanding that. This was a Star Wars universe. I mean, people keep talking about Star Wars. This killed Star Wars. That killed Star Wars. Star Wars is bigger than it's ever been, including when we were kids and we were into it and all of that. It is enormous. And that's what he was really doing here, trying to do here. The reason all that stuff you didn't get about Grievous is because that's what's in the Clone Wars. And you can say, oh, well, that's bullshit. He's just trying to squeeze more money out of you. First of all, sure, that's what he's doing. But he's also creating a very big story that a lot of people, all of whom are younger than us, actually really like a lot. Kids don't give a fuck about Luke Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker's story is the story they're following. And you're not, because you saw them in a different order. You saw Star Wars for you is a different thing than it is for them, and I think for people who connect with these movies.
Here's another thing I don't like. Wookiees. Why are the Wookiees in this movie?
Because they were
Wookiees
supposed to be
awesome.
in Jedi.
No, he put the Wookiees in there to shut the older fans up. Oh, you wanted Wookiees in Return of the Jedi? You didn't get them? Well, here's your fucking Wookiees. And they're lame in this movie.
I think they're Wookiees because I think the Wookiees are in here because Wookiees are awesome, like they are awesome in this movie.
Well, you're wrong. Oh, look.
Well, your mama's wrong.
About a great many things. I agree. But she was smart enough to not to sit through these.
Now, I wonder, is Itchy in here?
Yeah.
I'm sure he is.
Itchy is in this movie.
So that's how awesome this is. That's why you put Wookiees in.
Itchy is right in the front. He's the chief. He's the leader of the Wookiees.
Just goes to show you how boned the Wookiees are.
Well, if you remember, he usually wears a wife beater. He's got his Lucky Strikes.
Oh, wow, my DVD just froze.
Oh no.
Keep going. I'll catch up.
Yeah, we'll give you a time reference here.
I won't.
Charge, and here come the big machines fighting the Wookiees and the blah, 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 blah.
Who doesn't love big machines and Wookiees?
I used to. You would think this would be, again, I'm sitting through these movies and scenes like this going, I really should be interested in this. This really should be just going, I should love this. Why am I not loving this?
You know why you're not loving it? It's because you're not 12. Literally, Star Wars is not for us. You go back and you literally watch those original movies and you get to capture a piece of your childhood. Little you gets to watch those movies and you remember them as they were and you love that. And when you go to these movies, which are not as good, but probably as good for kids who are watching it today, you are like, this isn't what it's not for me, and you're getting upset by it. And there's no reason to be, because it's just not for you. It should be.
Yeah,
but
I don't like that excuse. I think this is just bad movie making.
Oh,
I don't care what generation it is. It's just bad.
But like I said before, Star Wars. I don't like the original Star Wars movie. I think it's a boring movie. That's the one that Lucas did. The ones I like are the ones that Lucas didn't do. Lucas didn't have as big a hand in.
Many of the problems that I think people see here, I saw them starting in Return of the Jedi because I'm a little bit older than you guys. When I walked out of Jedi, that's when I was like, oh, he's making toys, and there's a lot of dumb jokes in there for kids, and there's a lot of things that don't make sense. I mean, Luke and Leia being brother and sister is no more stupid, or is as stupid as midichlorians.
Oh, I agree. It was a dumb idea.
Well, it wasn't until I got older that I noticed, those things starting to appear in Revenge of the Jedi. When I was a kid, Return of the Jedi was my favorite.
See, when I was in high school when Return of the Jedi came out, so for me it was already like, wow, this is really not that good.
Yeah, looking back, when I see it now, I'm like, okay, the Ewoks are a bit silly, and they're obviously stuffed animals you put on a bed and blah blah blah. But
but their eyes blink now, so they're okay.
No, now they're just shitty, stupid little toys whose eyes blink.
I haven't seen the eye blinking yet, but I'd have to believe that makes them way creepier than they already were.
From the clip I've seen, it does make them somewhat creepy because nothing else on the face changes.
Right.
But all of a sudden, the eyes are blinking. It's like, okay.
I don't want to see that. I'm scared to go back.
Yeah, when I saw the clip online before the Blu-rays were released, the clip of Vader screaming "No," when he picks up the Emperor in Return of the Jedi, I thought it was a joke. I didn't think it was serious.
I didn't think it was a joke. I was hoping it was, but I knew it wasn't a joke.
And that right there is proof positive that you guys gave too much credit to Lucas to begin with, because Lucas put his hand back into that movie, which was an alright movie, and actually tried to make it worse. But he wasn't trying to make it worse, he was trying to make it fit into his idea. And 2 and 3 or 4, 5 and 6 aren't done by him. he isn't as powerful. He wasn't as powerful as he is now when he did that. He's the Emperor. Don't you get it?
Well, you can definitely see the Lucas touches in Return. You know, I've heard that in Return of the Jedi, he actually stepped in a lot to direct because Marquand was having trouble. At least that's what I've heard.
Return of the Jedi, I think, shows that Lucas wanted back more control after Empire. He wanted to say, "Oh, wait a minute, this is my baby." And as a result, it's a film often of two minds. You know, there's some amazing stuff in Jedi, but then there's some really dumb things in that movie that just still are, I agree, definitely forebears of what we ended up getting with the prequels.
Are you guys? Are you really emotionally affected here at this moment? You know, we see Anakin wrestling with some tough issues. I mean, at this point, do you really sympathize with him? Does it really make you feel anything at all?
No.
I think part of the problem is you already know the end of the story.
That's a problem with prequels in general. When you know how this whole thing is going to wrap up, there's a certain amount of suspense that just cannot be generated no matter what you do.
Although, like in Smallville, I had that, with Lex, but when it works, there's a weird hope, even though you know that it isn't. And in
sometimes
this one,
it's
you
fun
don't
to
have
see
a
how
hope.
they get there.
It's almost kind of for me, and again, I still like this movie. There's a little bit of, well, hurry up and turn already.
Yeah, that's actually my problem with him.
Stop getting wishy-washy. Just fucking turn.
Yeah,
it's amazing that they have wasted so much time in really showing his transformation. Even in this movie, they waste time before he actually turns.
Yeah,
I'll get into it later when actually the whole transformation happens. But it's like, dude, you gotta. He can't just have him suddenly go. You know what? I guess some people. It just doesn't. It doesn't pay off.
It does happen rather quickly, and I wish that we would have seen more Vader. As sure is the wish of a lot of people. That I thought maybe this episode we should have maybe seen him in his full Vader garb. He should have been sort of like in a proto Vader garb, something like that.
Well, you had, I think, and I don't disagree with Lucas's decision to show Darth Vader at the end of the picture. It's sort of a payoff. Sadly, it's an awful one in this movie.
Well, I thought it was really cool that we got to see Grand Moff Tarkin? Is that his name?
Yeah.
The only thing that I didn't like was the no. I thought the assembling of Vader was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. I will give you that. That moment is actually pretty strong.
And honestly, if you were a Star Wars book reader, there's a book that takes place right after that. And it's about him being Vader and learning to deal with that stuff. It's really good, just like most Star Wars stuff. When it's outside of Lucas's control, outside of his hands, it's really good stuff. The book that happens in between 2 and 3 is really, really good. Like the look that Dooku gives the Emperor right before what's his name chops off his head. That's because the Emperor told him to let him win. The Emperor said, "Let him win, so I can try and turn him to the dark side." And Dooku said, "Okay," and then he says, "Chop off his head." Wait, what?
I was like, I don't remember you mentioning that part of the deal.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've noticed. Novelizations of films will tend to flesh out plot holes like that.
Oh yeah.
Well, they have the luxury. They don't have time limits and budgets to worry about. It's only as much as they can fit in the book. A lot of novelizations are better than the movies that they novelize.
Yeah, I've been noticing that a lot lately as I've been reading novelizations before doing the commentaries on the film. I noticed you guys are familiar with Explorers. Oh,
yeah, George Gibe's novelization is very strong.
Yeah, the book was actually really pretty good, and you get a sense of what's the kind of movie they wanted to make, but they just didn't get to do it. And
it's actually very off topic, but although the movie's brilliant, I love it to death. The novelization of Star Trek II is fucking awesome.
Really?
It really is, because they go into the whole slaughter at the space station, at the Space Launch Regular One, and actually it's a horrifying sequence the way she writes it. The author Vonda McIntyre.
I think what's interesting though, and to even kind of bring it back around to topic, is the main difference there is that big difference between film and Prose. I mean, Prose is going to be more character driven. It's going to be more plot driven. It's got not just room to fill in holes, but it kind of has to achieve a coherence. But film can't do that. They have to just make certain assumptions here or there. And I think what Lucas has done is left a lot out. And
which
that's
he has
kind of
to,
the flaw.
obviously.
Oh, but I think that's kind of the flaw is there's a lot of individual pieces of all of these movies, this one in particular, that are really good. It's just, and a lot of ideas even floating through there, they're just not connected that well. And, and I think part of it is because he's really, you look at his method, it's not as sort of like tightly script focused. There's a lot of kind of working it and evolving it, and even to movies that are already done. And I think that's where kind of he's at least doing storytelling a style that I don't like as much, but I think, I think certainly there are a lot of people who do, but I think that's really kind of the failing here. And I think you do see that in Star Wars to some extent. I think our love of Star Wars would be a little bit different if he had directed the first 3 movies.
Yeah, here's this whole sequence with General Grievous and the multi-lightsaber. This is another thing Lucas is guilty of. Introducing really interesting visual motifs and ideas and then dropping them just as quickly. Why does General Grievous have this amazing ability to wield 4, 5, 8, 9,000 lightsabers at once, and then he doesn't do anything with it? He just gets a couple limbs chopped off, and then that's all there is to it. It's like, why even waste time developing the notion that he could do that if you weren't going to do anything with it?
Because he's George Lucas, and that's how he rolls.
Because whatever dude it was whose job was to design Grievous came up with that, and someone went, all right, we'll stick that in somewhere.
I've noticed that in this sequence here, I mean, this incredibly long sequence,
yes,
that's his fighting with Grievous. Obi-Wan he's a kick-ass Jedi, but when you see him in the beginning, or even at the end of Episode 2, between him and Dooku, or in the beginning beginning of this was him and Dooku again, he kind of gets his ass handed to him rather easily, and I get the feeling that he's not such a great Jedi, and I don't want to feel that about Obi-Wan.
It's not that Obi-Wan's not a great Jedi. It's that Obi-Wan isn't a great lightsaber fighter. He dies in a lightsaber fight.
Well, here he seems to do a damn good job defending off.
Because he's not fighting a Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, Grievous isn't a Jedi. He just knows how to use a lightsaber.
Right, there's a difference.
He's not using the Force.
Dooku, there's only one person, and see, this is me and my Star Wars knowledge. There's only one person who's actually a better sword fighter than Dooku, and that's Samuel L. Jackson's character.
Yeah, Windu is the
Windu is the best. Second best is Dooku, so he should get his ass handed by him. When he's up against another Sith, there's only one other Sith he goes up against, and what does he do? He chops him in half.
Yeah.
As a Padawan learner. He isn't even a Jedi yet. So I will defend him. I will defend him.
And I would like to give some props to Ewan McGregor for being one of the few actors to get through all 3 of these films, actually managing to develop something of a character. He does do a very good job, and I believe he goes on to become Alec Guinness, which is the best thing I can say about him. And that's actually saying a lot, because he's Obi-Wan is forced to do a lot of really inconsistent things in the first 3 movies, but I do enjoy seeing him as a young Padawan learner in the first movie, and he does seem to age and mature. It was one of the few character arcs that he got mostly right, and it was fortunate that he had a really personable actor to carry it off.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not even so much he becomes Alec Guinness as much as Alec Guinness is where this ends up. I mean, he's the definitive Obi-Wan for me. I actually would have no problem if Lucas put him in at the end of Return of the Jedi.
No, shut up.
When you die and you come back good looking. You don't come back old. You come back in your prime.
That's not even
the 250-year-old Yoda there. That'd be right. If you're going to have an astral form, you might as well be able to pick which one you get.
Yeah.
Darth Vader didn't come up all scarred.
Yeah, that's true. here Anakin's going to pull his saber out on Palpatine, but don't you think it takes them way too long to take action against Palpatine? I mean, he should have picked up on the fact that he's up to no good during that scene at the opera when he's talking about Darth Plagueis, and even Mace Windu just said in the previous scene, I sense the dark side surrounds the Chancellor. And I'm like, okay, then are you going to do something about it? I mean, it just seems to take them too long.
Well, it's because the Jedis are idiots. They
are idiots.
Yoda and Mace Windu are in the same room at the same time with Emperor Palpatine, and they don't know that he's the Dark Lord of the Sith.
He's just more powerful than they are.
Exactly.
That doesn't make them idiots. And even they bring up that the Jedi's ability to use the Force seems to be weakening.
I don't know. It just seems at some point they should have gone, does something not seem right about this dude to you?
Well, but they do. But what can they do? He's the president. You either commit an act of treason or you have concrete evidence. I mean, that's part of the problem. The Jedi are they're cops. They have to play by certain rules. This is why the Republic falls. I mean, that's the whole point of this.
My DVD is frozen.
Another DVD.
I love that all the DVDs are freezing.
Well, mine's the only one that seems to be working. Okay.
You've got a Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's like completely oh, here we go.
Yeah, I've actually switched to my iPad. I'm just guessing where you guys are right now.
Oh, well, right now the Emperor's saying it gives you focus, makes you stronger. After he's just pulled the saber out on him, but...
Okay, yeah, that's where I am right now, too.
What do you guys think about this little plot thread of Palpatine using his love for Padme, like save her from certain death? I mean, do you think that's a good enough motive? A strong enough motive in terms of writing?
Wow,
no, and
that's disagree all night.
Well, no, it's weak. I mean, the whole love story is so forced.
No. The love story
is good. The love story is weak, but love is the motive. That is, I mean, if you're talking about a problem being not able to control your emotions, I think love is much more dangerous than hate.
And I guess I would buy that more if the love story had been better developed and I actually gave a shit.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, he's been using the Jedi mind trick on her the whole time. That's why there's no chemistry. It all started with, "Are you an angel?" Boom. These are not the droids you're looking for.
And he's just been raping her ever since.
Pretty much.
Oh, man.
This one started out a Sith Lord. He never turned. They just found him.
I almost like that a little bit better, that interpretation of, he was always dark. They just couldn't tell.
Oh, I actually have a theory that the whole fatherless child thing. No, he's got a daddy. His mom was just lying.
Yeah,
I think his daddy is Watto. Anakin is the product of rape, and that's why his midichlorians are high. Because Watto's midichlorians are high because of his age.
Anakin was my son. Oh.
This is all expanded universe stuff. And a little fanfic and slash in there.
Do you think this fight sequence and the chase sequence that preceded it is just Lucas indulging himself a little too much?
Yes.
A little too much? Yeah, there's no point to any of this. None of this ends up mattering at all.
No indulgence is too much.
It kind of sucks because if you watch the original Clone Wars cartoon before this one, Grievous was amazing on there. And to finally get to see him on the big screen, done up in digital life and all that good stuff, and then he's a bitch. He's a bitch in this movie, and it really does suck for a character that other people built up to be really, really good. Every time somebody says this stuff sucks, I continue to say it is not this stuff. It is Lucas. Lucas is the one that fucks all this shit up. If somebody else had directed this movie, I bet you it would have been 1,000 times better. But Lucas,
if someone else had directed and someone else had written this movie.
You know what?
It's a combination of both.
The writing is still fine because as a director, you can change things, let people say their own lines. So, well, what do you think the actors? Because they've got a great cast of actors. They could have fixed the script on the fly very easily. But, It's Lucas. So I continue to blame him.
So now that Grievous is dead, what have we all learned here, everyone? Well, not much of jack shit.
The blasters are clumsy, random weapons and unsophisticated.
Yeah, even though it's the thing that saves his ass. Oh, well, more walking and talking.
Yeah.
Right, now let's keep in mind what's going on here. He just found out that the Lord, the Emperor,
is the Sith Lord.
The guy that is literally in control of the whole shebang is the fucking Sith Lord. And how worried are these people?
Yeah, they just seem like they're going off to go. They just seem like they're going after.
How often do you see Samuel L. Jackson worried?
Well, I see him. I see him get excited,
concerned.
What was the movie where he was wearing a kilt? Something 51. He was wearing that a lot.
Formula 51, yeah. But look at this. I mean, you would think they'd be like, maybe we should do more than just walk and talk for the next 5 minutes. Now that we have this information way too damn late.
Yeah, I noticed that in the dialogue, Anakin doesn't say what he pretty much already found out, which was that he was a Sith Lord. He says, "I think he's a Sith Lord." He didn't say, "Oh, I'm sure he is." He just said, "I think he is," and that seems kind of like a backtrack to me.
Well, it just feeds into the he isn't really a Sith yet, but he is a Sith because Anakin is the bad guy.
That's the 8th ship that has taken off.
I like this scene here. This moment of silence between the two of them kind of reminds me of Empire Strikes Back between.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite moment in the entire prequel.
It's good. It's good, but it sticks out like a sore thumb to me. It just doesn't feel like
because it's quality. That's the problem with it.
I meant, well, okay, if you want to get in debate about quality, but I meant like tonally. It just doesn't seem to fit. Although I like it. I like the music a lot too.
Yeah, I love John Williams' music, and I love the fact that both these characters shut the fuck up for a couple of minutes, and we're allowed to kind of read into what they're saying. Again, this is Lucas isn't force feeding every single thing through dialogue or any other number of visual clues. We're just looking at two people looking out over a wide city, presumably at each other, but we're not really sure, and we don't know what they're thinking. We're allowed to read into what they're thinking. He's giving us, as an audience, a chance to kind of figure some shit out, which is a good storytelling technique. And it's a shame this is the only scene, really, not only in this movie, but in the entire prequel trilogy where that's allowed to happen. And you're right, it does stick out like a sore thumb because there's nothing else like this. He didn't allow anything like this to happen in anywhere else in these pictures. And it's a shame because, like I said, this is probably my favorite moment.
I think it's a little... Yeah,
it's a calm before the storm.
It's true. I think it's sullied a little bit at the end when C-3PO enters the scene.
Well, it's always sullied when C-3PO enters the scene.
Well, he breaks the tension. I don't know. There's
these misuse of a character. Oh my god, they tuned C-3PO into such a fucking dork in these 3 pictures. Not that he wasn't already, but.
He was goofy in the originals, but they really did. They turned him in from being a slightly uptight sidekick to R2-D2 to being a complete and total bitch. He really is a bitch in the first 3 movies, and I don't like him at all.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
at all.
Because I used to love R2-D2 and C-3PO. Matter of fact, C-3PO used to be my favorite character.
You're not anymore.
No.
No. And again, here's a scene that should have been great.
Yeah, those Jedi
should have been absolutely fantastic.
To
finally get this
better fight.
Those two, the other Jedis, they die so quickly. It's not even funny. But then again, he is the Sith Lord. He is the Emperor. I'll allow for that.
Well, I think a little bit more would have been. It just seemed like they were rushing.
Yeah, they're gone. They're like 3 shots dead.
Well,
it's like, why are you doing this?
Well, no. Think about it. These are people who only ever have to fight other people who use guns. They never have to fight a Dark Lord of the Sith. They haven't been around for a very long time. And now this guy is at the top of his game, and he comes through and he wrecks house on a couple of people who never had to deal with that. You train against another guy, who cares? It's training.
Yeah, those guys have been sitting around in an office too long.
Best Jedi right now.
Yeah, so... But yeah, it's just, and I got another ship landing. We're at number 9 now.
Oh yeah, you're a little behind me. I'm a bit ahead of you guys.
Yeah, this is...
I'm at the point where he's incapacitated the Chancellor and Anakin is running into the room. That's where I am. But that's okay.
Anakin,
I'm a little behind.
Anakin is just about to enter in, and because Windu is laying some whoop ass down. This is one of the few times Samuel Jackson was actually allowed to do something worthy of being cast in this role.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the moment that you've been waiting for.
Yeah, and the same is it's still not as good as it could have been. Because, once again, we've never seen Windu really do much of anything. And another problem is Windu, we know, does not make it into the other three movies. So it's just a matter of figuring out when is he going to die. Well, he's probably going to die when he confronts the Emperor. It's just a matter of how. And it doesn't, I don't know. It just, a lot of the tension is sucked out as a result.
Well, at the point...
Although, again, someone watching these in the numerical order does not have that problem.
Yeah, well, those people are going to have to deal with it the way that they want to deal with it. I don't care.
Well, and that's kind of the biggest flaw with the prequels is the fact that those of us that saw the sequels already know the ending. But he didn't care about us. That's what everybody should have known. When he didn't take up from after Jedi and continue on with that story, at that point, he was not making movies for me. He was not making movies for people who watched those movies as a kid. He was making movies for new kids. That's what he was doing.
And that's fine, I guess. And here's another prime example of over-explaining something that didn't need to be explained. When we see the Emperor in Jedi, I always assumed that he looked the way he did because he was miserably old and just racked and consumed with evil. In this one, it's because of some lightning that hits his face, and now we have to deal with this kabuki-looking motherfucker, which is, quite frankly, until he puts the hood on, really bad makeup.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I just kind of assumed, like you did, like, oh, he was just old or he was not human. That's why he looked that way in Jedi. But here, I'm like, oh, this is what happened to him? I'm like, oh, well.
And it makes us see later on when he goes in front of the entire Senate kind of laughable because he's so fucking evil and he sounds so fucking evil and he looks so fucking evil that no one in the Senate seems to be going, last time we saw Palpatine, he looked a lot better, don't you think?
Well, I mean, that was the whole point. Is he had been assaulted and disfigured by the Jedi. That was
and turned into an evil looking motherfucker. I wouldn't trust anybody.
Yeah, I mean, you seem to forget that that council is made up of extraterrestrials who now might think he's hot.
That's true.
Don't you think?
after E.T. is one of the members of the Senate.
That's true. They're looking at him, going, "He's looking fine."
What a nice piece of ass.
Don't you think, here when
but after the Emperor bangs E.T. That's what.
Don't you think he should be a little, worried about his appearance? I mean, I always thought after this, disfigurement, he should be like, shouldn't I go look in a mirror? Because I'm kind of curious of what I look like now.
Yeah, this makeup was just terribly done. I can see why they put a hood on him after this.
He doesn't care because he knows that's what happens to Dark Lords of the Sith. Once you become consumed with the dark side, eventually you're going to be your outer appearance will change, but it doesn't matter because you'll have more unlimited power.
I always thought he was screaming, "And liberty!" I don't know why.
And liberty! And
I was like, I'll show you how democracy works. But one of the other minion just entered the studio. Justin, say hello to Mike and Michael and Damon again. Hello.
Hello.
You were the only smart one in this group. You managed to avoid the first 90 minutes of this movie.
Well, I know it very well, so I hope I can add a little bit now that I'm here late.
Okay, now
here we are. Now I timed it out, and it was only 12 minutes ago. 12 minutes ago that Anakin was still a Jedi who was alarmed that this guy was a Sith Lord. Now here it is 12 minutes later, and he's swearing his devotion to him and is on his way to kill some children. So, I mean, I'm just like, it might have been nice to have stretched this out a little bit.
Yeah, back when
he slaughtered the Sand People in the second movie, if that's when he had.
But the Sand People who killed his mother were responsible for his mother's death. I'm not going to begrudge him taking revenge on those assholes.
But he's a Jedi.
Yeah,
Jedis
revenge.
Don't get revenge.
Yeah, Jedis don't get revenge.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's always had this in. I mean, that was one of the criticisms that I've heard against the movie, is the idea that Anakin seems like he's, kind of bad from the start. But, again, I think that is kind of part of the point. He's never had that control. He's always been a danger because of his inability to control his emotions.
Well, they actually...
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, but this is just way too fast to go from literally being, well, I'm kind of conflicted about this, going, hey, Jedi children, come here for a second.
And in Return of the Jedi, Luke starts to turn evil just because Vader mentions his sister.
No, he just got pissed off.
Yeah, he wasn't evil. He was just mad. But they even...
that's kind of the whole point. Now kill your father and take his place at my side. That's Luke starting to turn to the dark side.
And
he was tapping into the dark side, that's for sure.
No, he was if he had killed Vader right there, he would have been a Sith Lord, or at least he would have been the apprentice.
And he did. And that was actually very believable the way that all played out. I just don't think he pulled it off here at all.
No, but I'm saying it's not. In terms of how quickly it happens, I mean, that's how quickly it happens in that movie. The only reason he doesn't is because he chops his father's hand off.
Well, I would have
it would have changed.
I would have believed it had there been more of a played it off in Return of the Jedi and in Empire, is that you saw Luke always tempted, even with the challenge on Dagobah, facing off against his own self, literally. I mean, they played that out very well over the course of those pictures. I just didn't feel with the Anakin storyline. He just was, at this point, it just seemed very forced and very quick that he would go from literally being conflicted and indulging his dark side on occasion to killing Jedi children. That to me just seemed was like, wow, that wasn't like at the start of the day he was like hanging out with his buddies and having a nice day and talking to his wife, and now he's killing Jedi children. I mean, I don't know.
His wife that he had been lying to the Jedi Council about, his child that he had lied to the Jedi Council about.
I'm not saying I like the motherfucker.
I know, but see, what I'm saying is you're saying that it's not established, and the point
it is not established.
Except when he kills a village full of sand people a whole movie ago, how he's lying to the Jedi Council. This is it. This is the whole time he is not the Jedi playing by the rules. I mean, you keep missing the point.
I think
Jedi not playing by the rules is one. Another ship landing.
I think Lucas was trying to set up, but it was deleted in The Phantom Menace where he shows him beating up. Was it Greedo?
Oh, I'm glad they cut that scene. That scene was dumb. That was just
he was trying to show that he had a dark side. But let me ask. I want to ask you guys something before I forget. But where did the Emperor get the name Vader from? He just seemed to pull it out of his hat. It just seemed to come out of nowhere.
I'm sure there's a Sith book somewhere. The Book of the Sith.
Yeah, you have to give him like Darth Awfulness.
There's a list like they do with hurricanes. Whoever was going to be next was going to be Vader.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean they got Sidious, they got I don't know, they got Sidious, and what was it? It's all they're all negative emotions. Darth jealousness.
He was Darth Vader when he conceived him, when he went and fucked his mother.
This is one of the segments of this part of the story that I think everyone was waiting for, and don't you think that maybe this should have been longer?
Well, I'm not sure about longer, but I think certainly this should have come at a different point in the movie. Again, this is the point in the movie where Lucas is literally going, oh shit, I've got to get through A, B, C, D, E, and F in 20 minutes. And that's, as a result, all this stuff just feels very, very rushed. Even though I think some of this actually works very well. I like the idea of all the Jedis out there doing their business, and he introduces his code, and all of a sudden everyone turns against him. It's a nice idea. Of course, we don't really care about any of the Jedi because we never got to know any of them. But whatever. But it was a nice idea.
And I think that's where even he suffers from knowing the ending. It's at the point where I think he was just, all right, let's get to what this is about, which is Yoda and the Emperor, and misses that opportunity unless maybe he say, oh well, we'll do a cartoon show about that. So yeah, I think that's really where at the end of this movie it's evolving towards the goal that he already has rather than evolving how it would necessarily evolve, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do like when he kills the children.
The individual moment of him doing it is actually pretty bad. I mean, it's like, well, I guess he definitely is on the dark side. It's just that like I said, it's coming 15 minutes after him being
Where
like,
are you guys at?
all the Jedi are getting wiped out all over the world or all the universe.
Okay, tell me when Padme starts crying.
Oh, do I have to?
I do like this bit with Yoda taking out these guys. I think that was pretty cool.
Chop their heads right off.
Yeah. Yoda
I
has
think
some very good moments, and the fight with the Emperor at the end is probably Yoda's best moment in the entire prequel trilogy.
Really, I can't stand it. It goes on way too long.
I love that fight because it's actually a good fight because they shows two of the most powerful users of the Force fighting each other without lightsabers and shit. They're just hurling shit at each other.
Yeah,
it's like
big round chairs, man. That's awesome.
For me, it's just too big. You know, with them hurling everything in the Senate room, it kind of has no heart, no emotion to it for me.
Well, I like the fact that it went big because it's two small people essentially turning an entire huge room into their own personal plaything. It's like anything becomes a weapon. I like that. I mean, for me, that was one of the few fights in this movie that actually worked.
There's Padme's cry.
Yeah, Padme is now weeping uncontrollably.
All right,
now that is something, as far as Padme goes in this movie, that I did not like. I feel like in this third movie they really just reduced her to, the crying girlfriend, and
no, it's the worst part that Natalie Portman's ever had in a movie. Is this version of Padme in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, in the first one she's young, but she's strong, and even in the second one she is. But on this one, she just becomes a, girl.
So. Mommy hormones.
Yeah,
she becomes Neepy Pregger's bitch, and that's it. Okay, now she's crying. Oh, jeez. Oh, no. Oh.
I got to agree with you guys. I don't know who mentioned it, but someone talked about the fact that it would mean more if we knew something about these Jedi that are all getting cut down. And a lot of the guys that we've seen killed, I'm familiar with from the Clone Wars CG show. And so I kind of know who these guys are. But if you've never seen that, then you're right. Their deaths don't mean anything. And
here's another great example. You put a character or an actor like Jimmy Smith in this role of I can't remember the character's name now, but essentially he goes on to become Leia's father. Yeah, Leia's father later. Yeah, and I really like his few scenes in the movie. Again, it's just like, why cast an actor that personable and that charismatic in a role that doesn't end up really having much of a point? It just was like, it's a shame. I wish we could have more.
I don't think it was that. I don't think they cast that because of that. I think it's because it's the same reason why Samuel L. Jackson is in the movies, because Samuel L. Jackson wanted to be in a Star Wars movie. I think he said, hey, put me in a Star Wars movie. Kind of like Christian Slater making an appearance in, Star Trek VI, out of nowhere. Yep. And that was almost the height of his career. And he's there for like a brief second because he wanted to be there. He wanted to be a part of something bigger than the rest of his career, because that's what it's going to be.
I'd be in a Star Wars movie.
Hell yeah.
Is that Itchy?
Yeah. No, you can't kill Itchy.
That's Itchy.
I don't see the Lucky Strikes.
Or the wife beater. He's not wearing it right now.
Well, yeah, but if he's out going to war, he would have the Lucky Strikes.
I don't know, just to me, the Wookiees were a sop to the old fans. Okay, here's your fucking Wookiees to shut up.
Oh, yeah, I guess we should say that. Itchy is Chewbacca's father and the chieftain of the Wookiees.
Does that come from the Christmas special?
As from the Christmas special.
And other extended universe, expanded universe stories.
Yeah, and he's actually in this. They put him into this movie to make him real.
He's a great warrior.
Now, we just saw the Tantive 4 on the inside, I think for the first time in this movie. What do you guys think about seeing that, given that connects us right to the beginning of episode 4?
That's
I don't care.
I liked about this, again.
Really? I loved it.
All those little nods and design, and I mean, even going back to the room that Palpatine is in, kind of mirroring the throne room. Those are the touches I like.
I like I do like the touches and the allusions to the other films. It's the times when he just out and out quotes visually or through dialogue moments from the other pictures just to get like an emotional response.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah,
shit like that.
But see, that runs through all of them. I mean, that's even in the first 3.
Yeah, but
they're not harkening back.
Here it just feels like, again, he's just like trying to... in this one, like the last shot in this movie, I hated because it's like, hey, remember that shot from the first Star Wars? Hey. It's like, fuck you. It just come up with an original last moment for your final movie in the films, will you?
Yeah, I get that. I kind of feel both ways. I mean, it is a neat shot, but
it's a great
nice
iconic shot. Why wouldn't you do it?
But because
he had already done it.
He already did it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because artists never go back to their own to the same stuff. They never redo. And again, you're actually wrong. It hasn't happened yet.
Well, yeah.
Again, if you're going to keep reading it in the incorrect order, just because that's the order they came out.
Yeah, show you an incorrect order.
And that's why in one generation, no one will be continuing to have this fight about the movie because no one's going to look at it that way.
No, and that's fine because at the end of the day, it's just the last time I'm ever going to watch this fucking thing.
Except for when you wind up in hell.
No, I think I'm already there.
Oh, no, you're not. Because Penny Gadget will be there, too, just prodding you in the ass.
What, that cunt?
So what scene are you guys at? I think I'm still not synced up.
Oh, Anakin, I love you. It's all going to be okay. And, I love you so much.
I think I like it better listening to you do that and watching it on mute.
Yeah, we're just cutting back to the Tantive 4 now.
I'm still
which I think is a really cool looking ship. I like it. And I think for me, of course, as someone just like you guys, having grown up with the originals, when we cut to the inside of this and it's a physical set, it almost makes this movie harder to watch because you realize that this is a movie. This is what you're supposed to see. Physical sets, people really walking on something, not blue screen, none of that stuff. This is a real place. And it just feels different than the other locales you'll see in all three of the prequels.
All right, I just got back to the ship here. Obi-Wan's, I guess, showing up with Yoda or something. Hey. I do like the idea of seeing the ship go up into the ship, like it goes up into the Star Destroyer at the beginning of Star Wars. It's kind of a neat idea.
Yeah. I actually would like to know what happened to the Tantive 4, given that we know that this is pretty much their family ship in the in the correct viewing order. The last time we see it is getting pulled into that Star Destroyer.
I think they sold it. I think they sold it to Watto.
Maybe so.
Watto's dead.
No, he's not.
He could be alive.
No, he's totally dead.
How do we know he's dead?
I'm pretty sure Maul choked his ass out.
What?
When? I don't remember that.
I think it's in the books.
Watto's in episode 2.
Books.
Oh, you're right. He is in episode 2. What the fuck am I reading?
He's probably still alive.
He's just sitting there going, "Oh Christ, I have no money." Oh.
Yeah.
He's wondering what happened to that bastard child of his.
Probably.
I bet he's glad he's gone.
Yeah. Here was one problem I did have, and I really wish they had not brought these awful Trade Federation guys back because they were the first aliens we were introduced to in Phantom Menace, and their dubbing was so bad that I kept waiting for them to die horribly, and I'm pissed that we had to wait 3 movies to see them get killed.
Yeah, they did not improve at all.
Do you guys think that Yoda maybe talks a little bit too much in these movies?
I think everyone talks too much in these movies. Way too much.
What do you guys think of Mustafar here? Think it's a bit too strong visually, this lava planet?
Well, no, because there's the jungle planet, there's the desert planet, there's the ice planet. Why not have a lava planet? Oh, and let's not forget the water planet in Naboo. This is not something new. It's just the last one he had. Like, he had nothing else to go to.
That's a good point.
I haven't done a fire planet yet.
Well, I just thought that
it's a bit much. It's also, I don't know what they're mining. Are they just mining lava? What are they doing here exactly? And whose bright idea was that, we should set up a mining facility here? Really? Well, who's going to build that shit? Not me. I mean, but whatever. And visually speaking, it works for a while. The only problem is it becomes very monotonous very quickly because there's really nothing to look at except a bunch of smoke and fire. But again, I don't have a problem with the concept of it.
Well, I just felt as a visual motif, it was a bit, knocking on the head. Oh, this is
like the rest of the movie
they're
isn't.
Literally fighting in hell.
Yeah, I mean that's. And I think that he's been alluding to this planet for a long time, so I can't. And again, what Damon pointed out is like we've gotten a planet of only one topographical feature in every movie. I mean, the sand planet, water planet, forest planet, ice planet.
Are you guys with Yoda fighting yet?
No, not yet. We're about the point where Anakin's about to slaughter everybody, and the Jedi Temple's on fire, and some people are fighting some other people that I don't really know why, and Yoda's going batshit crazy like a crack monkey.
See, I like the crack monkey Yoda.
Did not like the crack monkey Yoda.
Well, what do you guys think of Yoda with the lightsaber? There's been a lot of contention over that.
Not a fan of it.
I love it.
He doesn't need it. Yoda doesn't need it.
I love it and I hate it at the same time.
That's a love-hate thing.
Well, no, because him pulling it out and turning it on was the sweetest thing in the world. In episode 2, I don't care what you say, when he pulls that lightsaber out, when he opens up his rope and then pulls it to his hand with the Force and turns it on, that thing gave me a boner. But then he started hopping around, and it was like, oh, this is not how I wanted Yoda to fight. I wanted Yoda to fight in a different way. And Yoda with a lightsaber is awesome. It's just the fact that, and his fighting style fits his size. Fighting huge guys 2-3 times your size, you're going to have to bounce around and move around quickly. It makes sense. It's just,
it doesn't come off. It just didn't come off.
In the second one, I didn't like it. I liked it a lot here.
Yeah, they did a much better job in this movie of his fighting, but it's just.
Well, that's why I like his Emperor. The Emperor fights so much because it's not about him whirling around like a crack monkey with a lightsaber. It's more about him just using the power of his mind to do whatever the hell he wants against another being who's just as powerful as he is in the same way.
Well, Lucas talks about that. If you watch the behind-the-scenes stuff. I think it's on the episode 2 disc. He says, "Oh well," he's looking at the early visualizations of CG Yoda with the saber, and he's like, "Oh, he should be moving around much quicker." So see how that sort of developed.
Yeah, to the Imperial Senate, don't pay any attention to my horribly scarred visage or my suddenly really deep and raspy evil voice. Yeah, everything's just fine.
Don't you think they should be like, "What happened to you, man? What's going on?"
It's like, Jesus.
You need some lubricant, dude.
The Jedi did this. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the Jedi did this. That's why I look so evil. It's like, okay.
Standing next to a guy with giant horns. He's.
I know. It's like
evil. I'm just saying, evil is a little bit relative. You're just a racist, sir.
Yes, I am. I'm a galactic racist.
Again, E.T. is getting hot right now.
Okay,
dude, these guys are freakier looking than the Emperor.
I just thought of something. What is the planet in 2? Or in episode 2? Episode 1, water planet. Episode 3, lava or fire planet. Episode 4, desert planet. Episode 5, snow planet.
Planet in 2.
Well, no, 2 isn't. No, that Naboo is in 1.
Not
What's
Naboo.
2?
No. The one where the Jango Fett.
Oh, that's right. There's Jango Fett water planet. So is 1 just desert planet again?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they introduced Coruscant, so it's the El City planet.
City planet. There we go. Because we don't really see it in Jedi when they redo Jedi. Okay. So city planet. Yep. Because that planet is all city. Wow. He is so not creative.
Yeah. Well, right now, at the point I'm at in the movie, Obi-Wan's watching the hologram of Sidious turning him into Darth Vader.
About there.
Well, don't you think it's a bit odd that the Jedi seem to record everything everywhere? A bit too convenient.
Yeah, it's like, well, if they had recordings like this, why didn't they? Because at some point they're just. I remember in the other movies they were like, Palpatine's getting a little powerful. We should probably check in on that. Holy shit! They probably would have like, wait a minute, you're not going to believe the shit that was recorded in his office. It's like he's talking about being a Sith Lord, and there he is meeting with Darth Maul, and there he is meeting with Dooku. It's like, holy shit!
No, this was the first time he ever met them in his office.
It's the first time
okay, fine.
The tapes. He's like, it's like Nixon. Like they just recorded everything and nobody actually went back and watched it. Like,
no, he hasn't recorded it he hasn't erased it because he thinks all the Jedi are dead.
Ooh, yeah, that's probably a good point.
I hadn't thought about Nixon before. That's a good way to put it.
Oh, I'm gonna kill the Jedi. This is a very accurate recording. I like to.
You seem to have a problem with the holographic technology in this movie.
You seem to, yeah.
I do, because it's like all this other technology is amazing. You can only get black and white recordings of all this hologram technology, and it's always fizzing in and out. They can never get a clear signal no matter where the fuck they are in the galaxy. It's always...
That's an aesthetic choice.
Well, that's something he just established in the other movies, so he's got to keep it.
And it hasn't gotten any better 30, 40 years from this point on.
Well, speaking of like establishing the previous films, I mean, I always thought that it would have been maybe a little more effective if these films actually visually looked like the original trilogy. Instead of being very polished and CG, should have a more model, so to speak, model look to them instead of this kind of very glossy CG look.
But you know why they don't? Because look at the special editions. He went back and he tried to do it then. He didn't have the technology to do it then.
Oh, I know his reasons to do so. I just thought it would have made these films maybe appear more in that universe. Because to me, these films are just kind of a different entity to me.
But that's also the problem. If this was 1977 and he was able to do this in 1977, he would have done this in 1977. He just couldn't.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I know.
I just think he should, instead of special editioning, just fucking remake the other three movies and just put Ewan McGregor in old man makeup and use a digital Yoda and get everything consistent and cut your contradictions and just literally make them two completely separate things. And then
you might as well. That way I can avoid them all together.
Right. Then he can put the Blu-ray out of the original trilogy and hell, even take New Hope off the beginning, so it's the authentic in theater experience for people who want that. And then completely different. I mean, just recast. Make them all exactly, perfectly so the cohesive Star Wars universe that he wants, he gets. And then, we've got the other one there too.
Yeah, and then he can keep dicking around with those for the rest of his life if he feels like it.
I would be fine with that, and I would watch both of them.
I wouldn't, because I really have, at the exception of doing this commentary, this is going to be the last time I watch anything Star Wars probably for a very long time.
Whoa, what about Knights of the Old Republic when that game comes out? It's going to be sweetness.
Yeah.
Well, I remember hearing that Lucas initially approached, I think it was David Lynch to direct Return of the Jedi. Am I right on that?
Yes, yeah, and that would have been fucking hilarious.
Now, that would have been interesting to see a Lynch version of Return of the Jedi, but what would you guys have said if, say, Lucas wanted to pass the reins off directorial-wise for this film? Who would you like to have seen direct this one?
Anyone.
Okay. Do you guys have any opinions specifically, or
not really?
No, I mean it's hard to say who would have been a good fit because
no one could have done that though. No one could have directed this other than George Lucas.
Oh yeah,
the way that this was constructed, this was not made by a separate writer, separate executive producer. I mean, this was a singular, unique vision. I don't think somebody else coming in could have done what Lucas wanted, so that's why I think he didn't have somebody do it.
I always got the impression the reason he directed is just because he didn't want to have to tell anybody else how to do it. He was just like, well, I'm just, screw it, it's mine, I'll do it.
Yeah,
and that's the problem with it. That's the problem with the direction. It feels like that. It's like, oh, God, you really don't. You just kind of want to get through this and get into post-production so you can tinker with it. That's basically how I feel about this.
Well, and I mean, if you look at how the process evolved, there was this. I mean, this is a very different kind of movie making. This was, I mean, stuff was continually being shot, continually being invented, especially with the digital. You know, basically, if you've got like this particular, well, the shot that I'm looking at now could have been entirely created digitally. You could pull a head from this shot, from that shot. So much of this is created that way, and you can just see that this is not a, okay, now I write a script. Well, now I shoot. Well, now I do post. This is being constructed, you know, sort of parallel the whole time. Now, that is a part of the flaw. I mean, it's very hard to do a cohesive, structured narrative that way. And sometimes it gives you Apocalypse Now. Sometimes it doesn't. You know.
Are we just about for everyone with the Yoda Emperor fight?
Well, right now they just started a hug on Mustafar, Anakin, and Padme. That's where I'm at.
Oh wow, you're that far ahead.
Well, am I the only DVD that hasn't frozen? I don't know.
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm at my counterclock says 1:44:06.
Yeah, it's probably what you guys should have done a while ago, huh?
Well, we haven't actually been on screen too much, but that's okay. Yeah, I think it would have maybe been interesting to maybe have seen, say, Spielberg. You know, they're friends. Maybe would have Spielberg directed this? How would it have turned out?
Just as bad. We would have gotten Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or the E.T. remake where all the guns were replaced with goddamn walkie-talkies.
Although to Spielberg's credit, he does disown that version now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now.
Yeah, he does. He said he regretted it.
He still did it. If everybody loved it, he wouldn't be disowning it.
Yeah, well, no one loved it.
And he
that just means he has no faith in his own work.
Ooh, I'm sure that really hurts him.
When he's listening to this later,
it does.
He's like, all of my billions, and yet I don't feel loved.
Well, he feels loved by everyone but himself.
Well, at the point I'm
at the throwdown between Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Oh, we're none of us are synced up. I don't know if it matters.
What are you at, counter-wise?
Well, right now it says 140. I don't have my glasses on. 145:34. He's about to
stop mine until everyone's at the Yoda when Yoda walks in to fight the Emperor.
Okay.
And I'll just keep talking.
Okay. Yeah, she's saying, "Oh, you've changed, Anakin. You know, you're breaking my heart." That's what she's saying right now.
I think I'm.
You know. Okay. Well, as long as we're close, but I find it odd, and I mean, a lot of people do too. That in this moment here, he's going on and off about, "Oh, I've done all this to protect you," and then he suddenly force chokes her.
Chokes her. Yeah, it's like. I did all this for you. I love you so much. I
love you so much, I'm going to kill you.
That's because Anakin never learned how to love.
He never learned how to do much of anything properly.
No, he didn't.
He learned how to kill pretty damn well.
He learned how to kill. That's what he was built for. But,
like Terminator.
His relationship with his mother.
Machine now than man.
His relationship with his mother in the first movie is awkward at best. Like, you could tell that they kind of care for each other, but that's about it. And that's as loving as you ever see Anakin being.
Because she wouldn't acknowledge his slave master rapist father.
Oh, is that what it is?
And she does kind of let go of him pretty easily when you think about it.
Yeah, a couple Jedi show up. We're going to take your son. All right.
All right. Well, what are you going to do?
We're going to take him and give him a better life. Oh, okay. I guess. I let you.
Actually, the whole Jedi process is pretty horrible. I'm surprised they didn't get an Anakin earlier than this.
Yeah, and he loves his mom so much he let her stay on Tatooine for 10 years before he went back and looked for her.
Right. Like
he had the right to act surprised. I mean, Mom's life hasn't improved since I left? Mm-hmm. Jeez, what a bummer.
And actually, it isn't until Luke where he learns how to actually love someone. Because he doesn't even love Padme. He thinks he loves Padme.
He obsesses over.
But he's
obsessed with the idea. He's obsessed with the idea of her.
Right, but it isn't until that Luke moment where, he was almost when he was watching Luke almost die.
Yeah, you mean right after he tried to kill that son?
Yeah. I'm serious. It took a really long
let's
time.
face it, he figured out Luke was his son after Star Wars, and he tried to kill him like twice. Yeah, the one time he was like, come on, join me. But right after he chopped his hand off.
Michael, Yoda just walked into the Emperor's room.
That was my that's my second favorite moment of the entire trilogy, when he just looks at the two dudes and flings them against the wall and knocks them out.
That was a good moment. I remember that got a reaction in the theater.
Yeah, because that's all Yoda has to do. He doesn't have to wave his finger, do anything. He just looks at him and says, "I'm tired of you."
What's funny is human beings.
Well, what's funny is that perception of Yoda is all in our heads, because nothing in the original trilogy says that Yoda can do that, other than Yoda saying he can do that.
Right. Well, I think you see him lift stuff.
Right. Well, our perception of his power comes from Empire when he's all talk. It's never about how strong he is with the lightsaber. It's how wise he is. That's what makes a good Jedi. Your wisdom.
Maybe.
Well, he's not very wise in these. Fortunately, he's not very wise in these movies. So.
He is. He's the one who kept saying, "Hey, how about we don't make this kid a Jedi?" It's the other fucking Jedi that weren't wise.
Watching this scene here, I'm watching, Anakin and Obi-Wan duke it out, and to me, it's just. God, the scene goes on so long, and
it's way too long.
It's just self-indulgent, and to me, I go back to Return of the Jedi. I mean, look at the fight between Vader and Luke. I mean, it's broken up into pieces, but the final confrontation is pretty short, and it's so much more effective. I mean, of course, you have, I think, great cues by John Williams, of course, but to me, it's just more effective.
Yeah, my problem, the lightsaber fight gets actually patently ridiculous after a while. They're leaping off of these,
they're swinging on vines like
vines and stuff. It's like, okay,
You know why, don't you? It's because this is it. You're not going to have any more lightsaber fights, and that's the one thing people loved about all the Star Wars movies, except for maybe the first one, is lightsaber fights. That's my favorite part. And
they're great. They're great, David. But I mean, they don't have to do it so much. I mean, look at the Empire and Jedi. There's not much lightsaber actual usage.
I understand that. It's just one of the things.
I mean, it's a lot of people, and again, people who did not grow up on these would look upon those and go, "Oh, there's not a whole lot that happens." I mean, these are about like badass lightsaber skills. I mean, I think Alan actually made an interesting call, is how the difference is those movies were like samurai sword fights, whereas these are more like modern martial arts sword fights.
Right. Which is fine. There's so many of them throughout the whole prequels. It's just they really do lose their potency after a while. And we're supposed to.
Go ahead.
I would be more caught up with the emotional aspect of the Obi-Wan Anakin fight if it were more concise. I'm not saying it had to be over in 2 seconds. I mean, there should be some length to this, but it just drags on way too long.
It goes on so long, and they're just so choreographed. It seems to suck away any kind of emotion I have from it. I mean, if you look at the fight between him and Vader and Empire, it's not that overly choreographed. It's pretty simple in terms of sword fighting, but this is just, it's just way too much. It's overkill to me.
And in a few seconds,
the fight in Empire is about how much better Vader is than Luke. This is about how amazing these two guys are. I mean, this is both of these. The Emperor and the Yoda fight are basically fights of power and skill. I mean, the Empire fight is not a lightsaber fight. It is one guy toying with another.
Yeah, he's bitch slapping Luke around in that one.
And when you think about it, these two are equally matched, and that doesn't happen in almost any other lightsaber fight that ever happens in Star Wars, where both of them are equally matched. Not only equally matched, they know how the other person fights.
Yeah, and their lightsabers are the same color. I mean,
right.
That scene where they both try and do a force push on each other. I mean, it's that's not what's going to win this fight.
Now, see, I do love this moment where the Emperor just starts hurling shit at Yoda. I just happen to think that was badass. Just because, at this point, he's that powerful. These things are like donuts to him. He can just, do whatever the hell he wants. And I love when Yoda stops one and wheels it around and shoves it right back up at him. It was nice to see something that wasn't a lightsaber fight for just a couple of minutes.
That was awesome. That's my favorite scene in this movie.
But those two shouldn't be lightsaber fighting.
They really shouldn't. They don't need them. They don't need lightsabers.
They don't really need them. And quite frankly, the Emperor is out of Yoda's league. Yoda really can't take the Emperor by himself. He needs somebody else. He just does, and that's why he loses the fight. But I'll say it. I said it before. I'll say it again. The reason the Anakin fight goes on so long, Anakin and Obi-Wan, is because they are identical. They're fighting. They're the same. They're different sides of the coin, fighting each other, and it's very hard to win that. And if you look at it, the only reason he wins is because he actually crosses the line that Anakin didn't think he would. Anakin didn't think he would cross that line and cut off his limbs and do all that stuff to him. He didn't think he would do that. That's the only reason he wins that fight. That's the only reason the fight ends. Is because of his slight overconfidence.
We are seeing it. Obi-Wan at the peak of his powers, and Anakin not really at the peak of his yet. Because at the peak of his powers, he can defeat Obi-Wan. It's only after he becomes Darth Vader that he becomes as powerful as he was meant to be.
Well, that just shows how powerful he is. When he's not at his peak, he's a match for Obi-Wan.
Yeah. But then, there's just these things, and I can't help but think, wouldn't some of the lava and the heat just have melted these poor fuckers? I mean, really, at the end of the day, I know they're Jedi.
They're ray shields on the bottoms of those things.
Oh, yeah, that must be what it is.
Did you get that from the novelization?
No, the commentary. And the blue glow that you see.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, no, on some of that stuff, but then there's some areas, like when they're standing up there on the rocks in the middle of a lava flow, I don't give a shit if there's ray shields or not. You're going to be on fire. You're just going to, your clothes are going to be on fucking fire.
Well, actually, you'll actually see him on fire shortly.
Yeah, which makes why didn't this happen sooner? It would have been funny if they both started fighting and they both burst into flames and you just see two people on fire fighting each other. It's like, holy shit, they're really committed to this.
But I honestly wouldn't put it past either one of the characters at this point in their development of actually continuing to fight each other.
Oh, yeah, they keep fighting.
Oh, yeah, they keep fighting and I would be laughing my ass off. It's like, look at those fiery motherfuckers go. And then Obi-Wan's then they would have to CGI a deformed-looking Obi-Wan for the rest of the other movies.
Actually, they should put Obi-Wan in a Darth Vader costume, but white.
Oh,
Well, I mean, as the scene really plays out, I wish I could think of something really specific to say about it, but
no, there's nothing to say while all this is going on because
there's just too much going on for too long. But I mean, can I ask you guys about the novelization? Have you both read it, or all three of you read it?
Oh, I've never read it.
I never read it. I gave up on the novelizations for Star Wars after Return of the Jedi. Because I didn't want to know. I didn't care. I wasn't intrigued enough to find out more about any of these movies.
Nope, I didn't read it either. I've read the stuff that comes before this movie and after the movie, but not the movie because I don't read. I usually don't if I've already seen the movie.
Well, I just heard that it fleshes out the story. Same with
I'm sure it does.
I'm sure it does, but again,
I don't remember who wrote it, but it was like an author famous for other stuff. It was not like one of the go-to.
Oh yeah,
people.
Yeah, I've never gotten into Star Wars books, but I've read Star Trek books, and those are usually good.
I love the Timothy Zahn Star Wars books.
They were good. They were actually much better than anything we got here.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what sort of reignited interest in Star Wars, that and the Dark Empire comic.
And it's just a typical waterfall moment coming up here. It's like, we're going to go over the waterfall of lava. And then now they're swinging from the ropes, and it's like, okay, all right.
This is getting a little silly here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to accept a lot of things, but at some point, just get to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this became how can we use this environment more so than how can we get to the point?
Yeah, it's like we spent a lot of money, realizing this environment, so we got to use it as much as possible to justify the cost.
That the lava is all real. No, they actually there was a volcanic explosion.
They did.
Because they're like you can't pull a lot of this stuff. It looks really fake when you do it fake, so they actually sent people out to real lava flow. So maybe it was. Right. Well, God damn it, we filled 4 hours of lava.
I remember.
And we lost 2 crew members
from the documentary. Yeah, I thought you meant for a second.
We got to at least put his shot in there because he died filming it.
I thought you meant.
And actually, I would like to throw a shout out to the documentary about Revenge of the Sith that's on the second DVD set. Mm-hmm. That's all about the making of one particular minute from the movie. It's actually fascinating, the layers of everybody that they go through to what it takes to achieve 1 minute of film in this movie. And it is actually
it is interesting to watch to see how much effort they put into it. But to me, it's just to no avail. It's
it's almost depressing in the end. It's like, wow, all that effort, and this is all we got.
Yeah, it's all about effects. And I'm like, I don't care. I mean, look at the Phantom Menace documentary. I think it's probably one of the best documentaries about a movie ever made. And I don't like the Phantom Menace, but that documentary is excellent because it's not about effects. It's about the casting. It's about the story development.
And it actually, whether intentionally or not, it reveals very clearly why the Phantom Menace didn't work. Because there's a lot of lines that Lucas has, a lot of lines that Rick McCallum has. It clearly it's like, oh, that's why this movie is the way it is. It could be said for the whole trilogy. And I've not watched any of the extras on Attack of the Clones because that's my least favorite of all of the films.
Well, yeah, they're pretty much the same. It's just all about the digitization of Yoda and the other characters. And he just chopped off his leg.
Yeah, just chopped him in half. So.
But you see the arrogance there. He did right there.
No, he did not think that Obi-Wan was going to do that.
Nope. And that's the only reason he loses that fight. That's it.
Even Obi-Wan's kind of looking at him like, I really didn't want to have to do that, you asshole.
Well, yeah, I can't say
this is a very good scene. I will give them full credit. This scene played out very, very nicely.
Yeah, I can't say I like the dialogue, but his emoting is good. I mean, Ewan McGregor, anyway.
No, this is, I mean, again, it almost makes you, God, I wish that there had been better lead up with this relationship. I'd care more, but it's amazing that I even cared this much. But then he catches fire and he burns up, and I'll never forget sitting in the theater going, this got a PG fucking 13? This guy's burning up. I mean, and then he's showing it too. His head's on fire. Oh my God, the stumps burst into flames. I mean, oh my God. So I can't accuse him of copping out for the visual side of this.
Well, I'm glad that they did do it, but at the time I remember having the same kind of feeling. Wow, this is pretty graphic for Star Wars.
Yeah, look at there. His head's on fire. You can see the scalp's all gone. It's like, ugh. It's like at some point someone must have gone, well, George, you may have to give us another $1 million if you want us to slap it as a PG-13. Okay, well, there's $1 million. Thanks, George. So that's it, yeah.
And he just leaves him there. He doesn't really make sure he's dead.
I would have been nice and just kicked his ass into the lava.
That's one thing that always kind of gets me, I will leave you for dead rather than actually killing you moment.
Yeah, even though it's actually cruel to leave you in this state.
But with Obi-Wan, I think that does make it worse. I mean, you're here to accomplish a problem, not torture the guy. You're here to get rid of him. But I think Obi-Wan can't really bring himself to do that, and that ultimately, again, becomes kind of a flaw, kind of a problem.
Yeah, because if he had killed him, lots of bad shit doesn't happen.
Yep.
But I was like, tell me about my father. Do you want me to start with the point where I didn't kick him into the lava after chopping his legs off?
But
do you want me to go before that?
It's his brother. It's his little brother that he taught everything that he knew to, and his brother turned out to be a bad dude, and he's really, really hurt by it at that moment. And that failure to kill him is a failure, but at the same time, I completely understand why he doesn't do it.
Oh yeah, I can.
Like, I understand why he walks away and just goes, I hope he's dead, because
it's like I can only do so much,
right?
Like
they honestly. It was a bad idea to send him, but there was nobody else to send.
There was nobody else left.
Seriously, any other Jedi would have been a better pick to go and try and take out Vader than him.
There's a precursor to the Imperial shuttle now showing up and landing for what is now the 18th time. We have seen a ship land in this movie.
That's just a guess. Have you really been keeping count?
I've been keeping track, and I probably missed a few.
Yeah, there were a few where you were talking when one landed, but I didn't say anything.
But I can lay claim to having seen 18 ships land in Revenge of the Sith, and we're not done yet. There's at least 2 or 3 more that I'm aware of that are going to happen. Because this is the part of the movie where Lucas literally has to go, okay, you got to resolve this, got to resolve this, got to wipe to this, give birth, die, baby, let's go, come on. Here's a baby, here's a baby.
Here in this moment when the Emperor's kneeling over his charred body, I'm starting to think maybe the Emperor's not such a bad guy. I mean, he, picks him up, he takes him to the hospital. He seems like a nice guy. I mean, maybe he did bad things to bring this empire together, but
he gives him some nice prosthetics and a shiny helmet.
Yeah. Gives him a nice voice box and James Earl Jones's voice, which is much better than the one he had before.
Hey, you could have just said, "Oh, forget you. I'm just going to go find a new apprentice." But he takes care of him.
It would have been funny if he got it. It's like, wait, there he is. Oh shit! You are fucked up.
God damn, you're ugly.
Yeah.
Time for a new apprentice.
And then he just kicks him into the lava. Boop, sorry.
He just sort of rolls him in, looks around.
Yeah, you've got no arms, no legs. I don't think this is going to work, Anakin. Sorry.
Oh, my poor apprentice. That bastard Jedi killed him.
And the one time it rains on Coruscant is the one time that Vader is being created. So I like that. That's how, of course, it has to be raining. Yep, ship landed again. We got enough for 19. Yo. These are good. These are good moments. I like the creation of the Vader bit here, his charred body, the way he's constructed, and it. In theory, it works nice with the idea of them kids being born at the same time that this is happening. It's just that the birth scene is so laughably quick.
The birth scene is, I don't know. I mean, why couldn't George just have put a real human being being the midwife? Here we have the robot,
Well, we have to have a robot because someone came up with a really cool robot.
I guess. It just seems like, really, could you just put a real person in there once?
Well, that's been the problem with a lot of these. There's just a lot of these. The prequel trilogy has a very antiseptic feel to it in many ways, which I think is a byproduct of the way they were made. I don't know if that could have been avoided, quite frankly.
The book that I was talking about, the one that follows this movie, is Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. It's written by James, I don't know how to say this, Lucino or something like that. Okay. It's really good. It deals with Anakin dealing with being in an almost completely robotic body and not being able to do the things he used to be able to do. He's still really badass, but it's a really fun read if you like Darth Vader. And
yeah, I think I've read about that book or seen it on Amazon or something. They seem to be pretty technologically advanced in these movies. Don't you think she would have known beforehand that she had twins inside of her?
Well, the bitch dies of a broken heart.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, don't you think that she would have had an ultrasound and found out, I have 2 babies inside me?
She dies of a broken heart. I'm sorry.
This is the dumbest damn thing. It's like, she has lost the will to live. Are you shitting me? Really? That's why she dies?
It works like that? Like, I could just say I'm done. And in 15 minutes I'd be dead? Like, it would take a few weeks to die like that. Just losing the will.
I do like this last little look that
he gives. I lost the will to live years ago, and it still hasn't worked.
I like that last little look that we saw of him, Christensen, right before the mask goes on. Like, I really didn't bargain on this shit.
Yeah, there is that, fuck.
Yeah, there is a good sense of, like, imprisonment.
Undo.
I know, I do. I was like, I'd like to change my entire behavior over the last 20 minutes.
Can I go back to
20
being
minutes.
a slave on Tatooine?
But she dies of a broken heart, gives birth to 2 babies in 5 minutes, and then Natalie Portman's part checks out. What a horrible, horrible role to give this woman.
So I'm way ahead of you guys, but I am looking at Alderaan right now, and apparently it's a mountain planet. So let's just add that to the list.
Oh, okay, why not? I mean, we knew there was one out there somewhere. It was just a matter of where was it, and why haven't we seen it yet? I guess we have. And now is coming up is the single worst moment in the entire Star Wars, all the films, by far. The entire saga. You take the badass of the universe and turn him into a whiny bitch. Oh, and it was a good little moment up until then.
That's the problem. He was always a whiny little bitch. We just didn't know the whole story.
Right. See, the way that you're looking at it is he's turned into a whiny bitch. This is the moment where the whiny bitch turns into the badass for the people who are watching it in order.
Except this is not when he turns into the badass. This is when he continues to be a whiny little bitch.
He crushes.
I'm sorry, this was a horrible idea. Yeah, everything in the room while going, no, my girlfriend, my wife is dead. Oh, shit, no more pussy for me.
Well,
did you miss the mopey thing in the last two movies?
I know I did not, but it just doesn't work with this suit and James Earl Jones' voice, okay? It just doesn't work for me. And the fact that he would take this no and add it to the end of Return of the Jedi is like, did you just do that deliberately to piss off everybody who still gave a shit? I gotta believe that you did. You're right, that is a mountain planet. That's all it is. It's mountains.
It's more like rivers and valleys planet.
Yeah, it's like really nice scenery planet.
But, I did like...
there aren't planets that just have a spot of that and then some other things, too.
Yeah,
not with George Lucas. Sorry.
No.
It's like
that robot chicken gang. It's only one topographical feature. And what's just like the idea of there being a planet with only one topographical feature?
It's like playing the old Sim City games where you have the terrain editor. You're like, I want to have a planet of all water. I mean, a land of all water. Or like, I want to have a big volcano city.
I'm going to have one house and 18 nuclear reactors to feed it back.
So we've all been George Lucas.
We all have on very small scales. And here's the point. It's like, I'm going to run away. You go run away. And we hide.
Yeah, Yoda's about to bring up Qui-Gon Jinn, and I guess I haven't looked at the Blu-ray part of it, but I've heard that there's a cutscene or something where it shows...
It's not on there from what I heard.
It's not?
No.
Okay.
Well, why even bring Qui-Gon back up at this point? I mean, it's like he was such a meaningless character in the long run anyway.
Which is a shame. I mean, I really like Liam Neeson.
Yeah, but he looked bored out of his mind in that movie.
The reason you bring up Qui-Gon Jinn at the very end of that movie is to explain why you hear Obi-Wan and then see him in the other movies. And Yoda.
Again, because you have to explain that, otherwise we just wouldn't believe it anymore.
Well, if you're watching them in order.
And now they're having a funeral for a very ineffective queen and not particularly good senator.
I would call her a horrible senator because if you remember, it was because she wasn't there. That's the reason
Jar Jar fucked it up for everybody.
Jar Jar, as the acting representative, had to vote, and he voted with his conscience. And actually, if I was in that situation, not knowing what everybody knows now, I'd probably vote for that way. Like, well, I guess he's in power right now, and he's doing a good job, so why not? It's what happens with almost all dictators. Like, hey, yeah, why not? He's doing a good job, and we are at war.
Now, here's the part that I again, that he's trying so deliberately. It's like, remember the first movie and the Grand Moff Tarkin? That's fine. Never see the Death Star being built, which is like, okay, this is like 20 years before it's finished.
Yeah, but the Death Star is in the second movie too.
No, it was briefly.
The plans are in the second movie.
Yeah, well, that's fine. The plans for it are, but then why does it take 20 years to build the first one, and then between 2 or 3 years between the time it blows up and Return of the Jedi happens, they've almost finished another one?
No, it's like Contact. Why build one when you can build two for twice the price?
Well, they didn't establish that's a stupid idea, and fuck them.
Actually, Lucas did address that.
And another ship is coming in for a fucking landing.
And basically said, yeah, we know that doesn't make any sense, but it looked cool.
Yeah, again. It's like, I don't want to see the Death Star. I don't care about the Death Star. The Death Star didn't work very well. I mean,
I remember when I first saw that, not really caring about the Death Star. I was just more taken aback by seeing the Grand Moff. That gave me goosebumps. I was like, "Ooh, did you see that?"
Yeah, they got a guy. They made up a guy to look like a young Peter Cushing pretty well.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. So I was like, "Here's a baby for you." And then, and this is an interest. I didn't recognize this actor that plays Lars or Uncle Owen is Joel Edgerton, who's gone on to become pretty popular of late. He was just in the Thing prequel.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. This was like the first thing he did, or one of the first things he did.
Why is it that you always know the name of the actor who plays Uncle Owen?
Because it pisses you off.
What's the other actor's name?
I don't remember now.
Okay. We used to play Star Wars Trivial Pursuit, and that question would come up, and Michael would know the name of the actor that played Uncle Owen, the original actor.
Oh, yeah, well, Justin and I played Trivial Pursuit too, and the question that came up for us a lot was what were the odds that C-3PO calculated of safely navigating an asteroid field? Justin always knew. I never did.
700 million to 1 or something like that.
It was a long number.
Oh, look, it's a shot of the two suns setting with the Skywalker looking over the blah, 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 blah.
Well, for those who are in sync with me, the credits just came up. So
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Credits have been over for a while.
I wonder where you jumped, or was it just a gradual thing?
It was immediate. What it was during all the space battles where nobody was talking. That's when it would actually speed up. It was kind of odd because it was almost immediate.
I wish there was a way for us to synchronize this better. It would have helped a little bit. But still, this was fun. Actually, this is
we were synchronized. It's just all the fucking cheap ass DVDs didn't work.
No, mine didn't work yet. I guess apparently no DVD players after a while. So I don't want this thing playing in me.
Mine's in a Blu-ray player.
Shit, just like it's even more elite. I didn't want a simple DVD in me. Oh, this poor saga. Well, and I'm going to say now what I said after this movie was over and the first time I saw it in the theater. Well, at least that's done with. Because that's exactly how I felt.
That's the funny thing because, you say this poor saga and at least it's done with. It's bigger now than it's ever been. Ever.
Yeah, but not with me, it's not.
Yeah.
I probably, he probably doesn't really mind.
I mean, when you add up all the Clone Wars episodes, there's actually more Star Wars content from Clone Wars episodes than any movie they ever made.
Star Wars there'll be more movies in the future, even after Lucas is gone. There will be. There's going to be more. There's going to be a TV show. Probably at one point, the books will continue on forever. I mean, whatever. That's fine. I just don't really. I mean, it's fun to kind of gripe and moan about it as we're watching it, but 5 minutes from now, I'm not going to give this a second thought because I'm just kind of over it. These movies really weren't. These movies are clearly not made for people who give a shit about, interesting characters or storytelling that's worth a damn. So, fine.
Or they're made for people who aren't, just clinging desperately onto a childhood that probably wasn't as good as they think.
I'm not clinging on to my show. I'm not one of those people that runs around saying George Lucas stole my childhood. No, he did.
I think Justin's trying to end his show.
I don't give a shit. You don't end your show when I say you end your show. You can end your show.
Justin actually left the room. It's just Josh here now. But I was just going to ask. Michael has given us his thoughts about how he felt when he first saw it. But what were you guys' impressions immediately after you saw it? Did you feel satisfied?
Yeah. I mean, there were things I didn't like about it. I felt relieved because I thought that it was really quite a step up from the previous two. So I thought that it ended on a better note than I was afraid it was going to. And yeah, I mean, I've defended this movie a lot, but I'm not saying that this is a great movie. I just don't think it's as bad as everybody tends to think. And I think it gets a little unfairly lumped in because, like I said, the other ones, it's preceded by two movies and I like those more than most people too, but, this movie could have been a really good movie, and I think it still would have been kind of poorly received just because at this point, like, Michael was saying, he did not care anymore. You know, he lost so many people with those first two movies that he was not able to build an emotional response here. Judged on its own, I like this movie. There's a lot of really cool moments, a lot of really cool ideas, and I'm very forgiving as far as whether or not they execute ideas tightly or poorly. I'm more interested in kind of what I think he was trying to say about Anakin and about his fall and about the politics of the issue, which is something we really barely talked about. But I think that was an important part of this story. I mean, you were when you were making talking about the emperor getting elected and getting all this stuff. I'm like, George Bush was president when this movie came out. This is how democracy dies, to thunderous applause. I thought that was a great line, and I think that this is the only movie where the politics, because they're supposed to be sort of backdoor politics in the other movies, this is the only time it actually gets interesting.
Let's see. When I originally saw this movie, I loved it because I'm one of those people who like lightsaber fights, and I like R2-D2, and this movie has a shit ton of lightsaber fights and has R2-D2 being badass. I wasn't disappointed in the least. There were a shit ton of things that were boring. I was like, because I don't like what is the planet that he fights goddamn Robot Man on? I can't remember. I don't like that scene. And mainly because there isn't enough lightsaber fighting in it.
And there's no R2-D2.
And there's no R2-D2. And he killed off his droid. So, I was kind of upset by that. I don't know what it is with me and R2 units, but I love R2 units. And I don't think anybody notices, but there's a shit ton of R2 units in this movie particularly. There's a lot in episode 1. You only see R2-D2 and R5, D4, whatever his name is, Obi-Wan's guy. And then in this one, they're all over the place. Astromech droids all over the place, and I loved it. So, yeah, I like this movie a lot.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I don't want to throw this movie completely under the bus. There is a lot of stuff in it that I do enjoy watching and having sat through it. Overall, though, I feel it's a shame that it had to come after the other two, and then it had to inherit the sins of the other two. It was compromised from the get-go. It could only be as good as it was allowed to be, unfortunately, and it's a problem. The movie it has to sandwich in way too much material into its running time, and as a result, it just gets bogged down way too easily, and it's a shame. But it is easily the best of the three films. So there's no contesting that. But it's by that point it really was too little, too late, and I just wish that he hadn't compromised this film to the degree that he had with the other two.
Yeah, I think that in many ways, if Phantom Menace had been the first act of a movie, that the Clone Wars was the second and third act of the movie, and then we could have gotten all of the stuff that had to happen in this spread over two movies, but then padded out with some more interesting padding than this one used.
Yeah, it would have been much better. You can almost...
Yeah, that's really kind of where it is the story that he told structurally he never got a grasp of how to tell it.
Well, and I think a lot of people forget that letdown, because there was a huge letdown when that movie starts, and it's the end of the Clone War. And you're like, wait a minute, I watched the cartoon, I was all ready for the Clone War, and it doesn't happen. And that you start a movie with a downer, it's kind of hard to go up from there. But now, after years years later, what is it, 6 years later, almost 7 years later, I'm fine with it, because I've forgotten that I was that expectation of watching the Clone Wars happen, and now I just wanted to watch the fall of Anakin Skywalker. So,
well, at the end of the day, if I had to pick a Star Wars movie to watch, I'd watch Empire Strikes Back before this. So.
Oh, hell yeah.
So that's all I have left to say.
For me, the movies actually, in order, get progressively better. Now, yeah, it's not a big jump between 1 and 2. 2 has much more worse stuff, but it has more stuff that I like as well. So it's kind of a wash, but up a little because at least, Natalie Portman's, wearing that cute little white thing, and Christopher Lee's. Even Christopher Lee at his worst is still fucking Christopher Lee, so you get points for that no matter what.
Well, he spent an entire career rising above bad dialogue and shitty direction, so he knows how to do it.
So that one, was a step up, not as much of a step up as I was hoping. And then this one I thought got better, and then I think episode 4 is a vast improvement. 5, I think, a vast improvement over that, and then I think it rolls back at 6 because I'm one of those guys that doesn't really like Return of the Jedi because I was too old for Ewoks.
But the credits are over now.
Oh, well, yeah, I was going to mention.
I do think it's interesting, though, that it has... Lucas has done something here that has only been done a few other times, and I think he's the only one that's really kind of done it as deliberately, is he's taken what was a story and then 3 stories and then really transformed it into a universe. And only, I think, the Star Wars universe, the Marvel and DC Comics universes are of that scope. I mean, maybe one day Harry Potter can get to that point, but right now I just think it's not as expanded and as vast. And I think that's actually a pretty amazing achievement. I mean, that is what's going to last long after people really don't care about specific Star Wars movies. Star Wars as a concept, as a big myth, will be the thing that sort of moves on into the future.
Well, that's a good way. I never thought about it. I mean, he really did create a whole kind of universe with these new movies. But as episode 3 goes, I agree with you guys. Yeah, it's the strongest of the prequels. But as with the new Indiana Jones movie, I don't. Well, say what you want. I'll take it. To me, it's a separate entity, and I'll always have the original trilogy, and that's what's always been and always will be Star Wars to me. But
we have to do a commentary for Kingdom of the Crystal Stone. That's definitely what. Let's see if Mike can stay awake for it.
I have not made it through that movie, and I've tried twice. Each time I get a little bit more, and see, I'm thinking I may not want to push that.
But I don't think there's anybody that'll defend that movie.
I actually kind of liked Crystal Skull a lot more than everybody else. And then
but that's not enough.
Well, no, but because I remember saying,
because you slept through all the
TV. Yeah, because I was a little. We saw a midnight show and I was a little drunk, so I fell asleep for like 45 minutes, and then you guys started talking about stuff, and I'm like, I don't remember that. And there's these people coming out of the walls. I'm like, when did people come out of the walls in this movie? And then I actually slept through the swinging through the trees too. So the movie that I saw was much better than the one that you saw.
You slept through 40 minutes of sheer hell.
Yep. And then the second time I was watching the movie, I was with my girlfriend, and she was like, "Well, why is this happening?" I'm like, "I don't know." She's like, "You saw this movie." I did.
I don't think I did.
I didn't see this part. And there I just slept through the whole ending. I slept through the middle of it the first time. So if I could sleep through the beginning, I will have slept through the whole thing.
Oh, man.
Well, maybe we'll get to do Kingdom of the Crystal Skull one day.
I was awake through Sith the whole time, though.
As was I. It bored me awake.
Well, is anybody out there who is still listening to us? Thank you for listening.
I hope not.
For this long, and I'll just.
This was all gold. What are you kidding? Geek Fights listeners listen to longer than this.
Well, yeah, I'll just try to wrap us up here. But I just want to thank
you can try
Damon and Mike for joining me on our podcast, and also Mr. Felsher for joining us as well. It's been a good time. I've been really enjoying listening to all of you and your musings on episode 3.
I would like to thank you for putting up with this.
Yeah, that's really the best way I can describe it.
And for letting Michael and I argue for 2 hours.
Well, it's been a blast. I love talking Star Wars, love talking Star Trek, so it's all good to me.
I'm just happy that I don't have to host that.
Well, just to put a seal on this episode, you guys who aren't familiar with Geek Fights can find them on geekfights.net or the Zod Complex. You can listen to that. And Mr. Felcher is from redshirtpictures.com. You can check him out there. But
I am also on Geek Fights from time to time.
Yes, he is, and he's a good panelist on Geek Fights. So, and are you going to be there for? I'm sorry, Damon.
Yeah, I do commentaries.
Oh, that's right. You
Batman the Animated Series. Yeah.
Into the Batcave. That's right. Check that out too. Yeah.
So if you want a commentary that's only 22 minutes long.
Well, this has been Josh, and Justin isn't here, so I'll just have to say goodbye for him. But we're the Soulless Minions of Orthodoxy, and just visit us at our sites or our forum, which is soullessminions.yuki.com. Stop by, leave a comment, or suggest a movie for us to do a commentary for, whatever. I post on there a lot. I keep things up to date, so please visit. So this is Josh, signing off. Have a good night.